Good news for Scream fans, there's a new movie out. Bad news for anyone who likes good movies, it's not a good one. It's here though. Scream 7. The disgust you felt watching me do that is about how disgusted you'll be wasting your time and money watching this film. Most people don't like this movie. Most of the reviews aren't overly positive. I just watched it. I am also in that camp now. I didn't find a whole lot to like about it. We're just going to dive right in, get into the weeds. So here's your spoiler warning. The best part of this film is the first 15 minutes. The scene that you see plastered all in the trailers, that is by far the best content in the film. It's the intro, where you have two people in a house, and it's, the house, and guess what? Ghostface is there and he kills them. And it's actually pretty tense. It's also pretty charming. You actually care more about those two characters in that house than any of the other characters that you spend the rest of the movie with. They did a better job making you care about those two, connect with them, and actually root for them than any of the other characters you see from that point forward. Every character that you meet outside of the core characters of Sydney and Gale. And here's your big spoiler, but I'm sure most of you have probably already seen this because it got leaked before the film came out. Stu, played by Matthew Lillard, also makes an appearance in this movie. Outside of these three characters, everyone else that you meet is the biggest throwaway nothing burger of just generic writing ever that just ticks off boxes of buzzwords without ever exploring anything about these characters, and you get actually nothing. They are just meat balloons waiting to be popped by the ghost face killer. That's it. Even Sydney's daughter, Tatum, the relationship between Sydney and Tatum is hardly explored. Now Sydney's an overprotective parent. Tatum kind of resents her for that, and now she's kind of rebellious. But they never actually even really talk or connect through a shared experience until the very end, kind of. It's just all of a sudden, Mom, this is really fucked up stuff you've been through, and now that I've been subjected to it, man, I really get why you were so protective all these years. It's oh, okay. Glad that resolved. But, there's never anything built up with, any of these characters or the relationships to one another. And every character that is introduced in this film, every new character, I shit you not, is here solely to be killed. You get nothing of substance with them. They get killed, and some of the kills are actually pretty decent. Especially in the tavern, there's a couple moments in there that was oh, that was a really silly kill, but self-aware silly. But the character that dies, you probably don't even remember the fucking name of. They are the most they have one character trait. For example, Lucas is the creepy guy. He's obsessed with horror films and the story of Sidney Prescott, so could he be Ghostface? Or is he just a obsessed weirdo guy? And then they also introduce two new characters that are working with Gale, and they're reporters, and they're into true crime and stuff, so they're investigating all of this, and they're doing it could be Tatum's boyfriend, or it could be creepy guy, but creepy guy maybe a little too obvious, creepy guy loves this a little too much, maybe creepy guy could be Ghostface, that kind of thing, where it's supposed to be self-aware, but it's very clearly written by a 60-year-old man who clearly has no idea how people actually talk, so it's just really embarrassing and cringe to listen to. But anyway, every character that gets introduced has one personality trait, and it is all they do, and that's it. You get nothing else. They hardly interact with each other, and when they do, it's very stiff and very bland, and then they die. And like I said, some of the kills are interesting, but that's all they do is just die. So this whole film is just, here's a kill in a sequence that isn't really intense. The sequences aren't that intense outside of the first 15 minutes. That ends with a kill that may be satisfying, or maybe it's just they got stabbed and died. There's a couple of those. But Ghostface racks up quite a kill count here. The KD ratio went ballistic, and yet not a single kill felt like it mattered at all. Because also, the main characters, like Tatum, forget about all of her friends. All of her friends die. They are brutally murdered. And she actually even witnessed her boyfriend getting stabbed to death. And she basically forgets all about it by the time the credits roll, and even drops a hard one-liner saying, "I'm Sidney fucking Prescott's daughter." It's okay. Wow, this was quite a turnaround. What about all your friends and your boyfriend that has all been murdered? I guess, whatever. We'll wipe her ass with that, I guess. It's just crazy how little they actually tried with any character in this movie at all. And I think it's important to have characters that you actually want to see survive. Otherwise, you're just watching a montage of kills and sequences that aren't exactly amazing most of the time, and nothing else. There's really just nothing of substance here. Anyway, though, I mentioned Matthew Lillard makes a return to this film. Kind of. This movie has some baffling decisions. Like, actually, shockingly dogshit ones. So one of the things is AI. And the way Matthew Lillard reprises his role as Stu is, you know, in the trailer where it says, "Oh, I'm not hiding, Sydney, not this time." Well, in the film, he then follows it up with a FaceTime call, and it's Stu. It's Matthew Lillard as Stu talking to her. So then the question becomes, is someone deep faking this? Or is Stu really alive? So then her and Gail start investigating, and they're starting to piece the puzzle together. They go to an insane asylum because one of the Ghostface killers that they actually were able to kill, Gail hit him with a car, like literally a joke moment where Gail just flattens this fucking guy. They get out and they're like, "Oh, vehicular manslaughter. Didn't expect that today." They just murdered a guy. It was Ghostface, obviously, but they kill this guy, they unmask him, and everyone just goes, "Who the fuck is that?" And it's just some escaped psychotic guy from the loony bin who, I guess, just out of nowhere decided he wanted to kill Sidney Prescott and her family, kill the daughter, kill the husband, kill everyone as Ghostface. So they tie it back to the insane asylum, the ward, and that's when they talked to one of the guys there who was like, "Oh yeah, no, that guy, he was a bad guy, but he was also friends with that guy on your phone you just showed me a picture of. That's John." So now they're like, "Oh my god, Stu's really alive, it's John." But they're also still not entirely convinced. So Tatum, her boyfriend, forgot his name, Ben? It might be Ben. I don't know, it's either Ben or fucking Jerichomo or something, I have no idea. It shows what a good job this movie did of making you actually pay attention to these characters or care about them. But they've said multiple times that this guy, her boyfriend, is really good with technology, so it could be him deep faking Stu, because it's really unlikely Stu's still alive. And then Tatum even discovers that he was deep faking himself as Stu, and he's like, "Wait, no, I can explain, babe. I was just seeing if the technology can do that, if it's even possible." And she beats him with a laptop. Turns out, wasn't him. He really was just seeing if it was AI. He dies in the next scene. Completely worthless. Again, completely worthless. And every single time these characters are together, it's a battle of who can make the dumbest decisions fastest. So all these characters, all of her friends, and even like the investigative reporters that work with Gail, when they are interacting with the group of friends, they all just make the worst decisions and even call out how stupid their decisions are while making them right before dying. And it's like, okay, that doesn't make it better. It's still just annoying to watch. It's so tropey, and at this point, it's just lazy. Like, you know it's lazy, but you don't care. You're just fucking sending it. Like, you're insulting the intelligence of the audience. It doesn't make up for trash. It's crazy how dumb the decisions are. For example, like Tatum, when she's getting ganked by Ghostface and her mom's on the phone, it's like, "You gotta shoot him through the wall. Shoot him now." And she shoots him a bunch and he goes down. Well, she then, like, unblockades the door and goes out to try and finish the job, and then that's when she gets captured. But it's like, why did you bother doing that? You just saw shooting him through the wall worked. If you want to finish him off, just keep shooting him through the wall, I guess. Just dump the mag. You don't have to go out there and put yourself in danger again. And in the theater, the entire auditorium just sighed collectively when she started moving like the furniture away from the door to go out there, because it was just very obvious what was going to happen next. And like decisions like that happen constantly in this movie, constantly. Now anyway, by far the worst moment of this film is the ending. The entire ending, like the last 10-ish minutes or so. Actually, it's closer to 20, because the villain gives an extremely long-winded monologue, because it turns out it was 3 Ghostface killers, and you don't know fucking anything about any of them. They are random people. So, one of them is the guy from the asylum that got hit by the car, and it turns out he was friends with 2 other people in that asylum. A woman and a man. The guy I don't remember the name of, but he was like an employee there, and they befriended each other, and then loved Stab, which plays a crucial role in here, because half of this film is dedicated to just regurgitating everything that happened in previous Scream films, just lore dropping everything that happened. So even if you've never seen a Scream film, you probably know scene for scene, bar for bar, what happened in Scream 1, because they do not shut the fuck up about it and just dropping all this nostalgia bait and everything, and even making a mention of, yeah, you know, if I was making a new slasher film, I would be doing a lot of nostalgia baiting. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what this whole film has been. That doesn't make it better. There's still nothing here. Like, they even call it out and still do it. It's so annoying. It's not meta. It's just lazy. Anyway, though, this guy's going through, like, how much they love the, you know, stab, everything that happened with the Prescott story. And then the other friend is Jessica, who's actually Sydney's neighbor, a family friend. And it turns out she had an abusive husband and became obsessed with the story of Sidney Prescott through, like, her book and everything. And eventually worked up the courage to kill her husband, and then resented Sidney because she didn't go to New York and thought she was, like, you know, weak for it. And then she became just crazy and checked herself into an asylum where she met the other two. And they cooked up this plan to basically make Sidney 2.0, or, you know, kill Sidney, that kind of thing. It's a stupid fucking conclusion where they reveal the killers. It was very, very awful. And I also think most people are going to guess that the guy at the insane asylum that they meet, who was like a weirdo briefly, where he talked about John, I think most people will be like, yeah, that guy's probably in on it in some way, because they made that pretty fucking obvious. But I don't think anyone will expect how stupid it is. And it turns out, prior to working at that asylum, he was like a Google engineer or something with AI, which is how he was deep-faking Stu's face onto his videos and Jessica's videos that they were interacting with Sidney on. It sucks, man. And also, there's a big point about you have to shoot them in the head. That's what Sidney keeps telling to Tatum, her daughter. Shoot them in the head. Because if you don't, they're like zombies. They always survive. And that happens actually 3 times, I think, of them getting shot everywhere but the head, and then they just disappear and they're still alive. So they act like they are literally zombies. Movie sucks. The movie's just not very good. Like I said, the first 15 minutes, I actually was very surprised that anyone was like shitting on this film, because like, this is a very solid 15 minutes. I'm really enjoying this so far. And then after that, it became very clear the big problem with this movie. All the problems became very clear. And I'm just shocked that this is the film they released, to be honest, because Scream's always been pretty solid. I haven't really watched the Scream movie and been like, damn, that was terrible. Until this one. This one really had me go, damn, that just wasn't very good. So yeah, anyway, that's really about it. See ya. Occasionally a new movie will come out and it's a bit of a stinker, and sometimes we'll even have a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes or other review sites, but it usually only lasts a few hours. It's very rare for a 0% to stick, usually after about a Concord's length of time, so roughly 2 weeks. You'll find it sitting like at 10% or 20% or something as more reviewers go see it. That is not the case for Psycho Killer, however. 0%, and it's been 4 days. And the audience score isn't stellar either at 33%, which is the most shocking part to me, because that is exceptionally rare. That's a fucking unicorn right there to see an audience score that low on Rotten Tomatoes. They will give anything glowing reviews. For comparison, even just recently, Strangers Chapter 3, which is one of the worst finales to the worst trilogy ever made, has a 50% from the audience. Doesn't matter what movie comes out or how objectively dog shit it is, a movie could come out that actually rips your nipples off and face fucks you in your chair, and it'll still have like a 50% for audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Yet somehow Psycho Killer is so bad that even the audience score is extremely low. So, the question needs to be asked. Does it warrant that? Is it actually a 0% bad? Well, strap in, sports fans, because I've just returned from the cinema after watching Psycho Killer, and I can tell you that maybe not a 0%, but maybe like a 10. It's bad. Like, it's not good. It's really not good. And what's crazy is, and I know this is what a lot of people are pointing out, this is from the mind of the writer who brought us Seven. Yeah, that Seven. The timeless classic film, Seven. I don't know what's happened since then. I don't know if the Monstars came through with the basketball and sapped his writing ability, but he really squeaked out something embarrassing here with Psycho Killer, unfortunately. And right away, I've got to make fun of the name of this movie. Psycho Killer sounds like a Steam stinker that I would just play on my gaming channel for 30 minutes as a joke. Like, it sounds like the name of a movie within a movie where a character's like, bro, we gotta go see Psycho Killer 4, it just came out. I can't believe they actually just ran with that. It does sound like something AI would spit out for you. And I know that's been a big criticism of Psycho Killer, is that it feels like it's an AI-generated experience here because it is not cohesive at all. It does not flow. It feels like so much is missing. The main character and the Psycho Killer are the only two characters that, like, even have a presence here. Everyone else is unnamed fodder, basically. I can't think of a single other name. It's genuinely like they forgot to have other characters, and even these two characters get so little to actually do. It is pretty disastrous. And the Psycho Killer himself, he has a voice changer voice, like the actual generic cliche, I am not a good guy. It sounds like something you'd hear out of an old school Call of Duty lobby on Xbox Live from a kid putting on a voice changer. And it's unapologetic with it, to the point where, by the end, I actually found it charming. Like, that's not, like, I can't even complain about it, because by the end, it was so silly that I actually just appreciated hearing him talk and the dumb shit he was spouting. So anyway, Psycho Killer is about, you're not going to believe this, a psychotic killer. He is a Satanist, and he believes his whole mission is to kill people for Satan. And he just randomly goes through and slaughters people. And he does kill a lot of people, but you'll probably forget that that happens because it's so flat. Like, it feels so, like, off, because everything is CGI blood in this. I don't think there's a single practical effect throughout the entire fucking movie, and it's, like, noticeable CGI blood. And it's, like, the laziest kills, like, when it comes to a slasher, typically they try and get, like, creative to unnerve and disturb the viewer. Here, they didn't bother. So, like, he just shoots a guy, CGI blood splurts out, that's it. Hits a guy with a hammer, some CGI blood, they cut away, that's it. Like, the only scene that has something outside of just hit with a hammer and then shoot is a scene which is like a confessional booth where he, like, stabs the priest and then drinks his blood through a straw. That was the only time that they tried something a little different besides just, bang! Alright, now I'll drive away. So, like, and it doesn't even work in the confessional booth thing either. It's really fucking wacky. Anyway, the movie follows a trooper named Archer. She watched her husband get killed by the hash-slinging slasher here, the Psycho Killer. And now she is on a mission to put an end to his reign of terror. He is just driving across the country, killing at random. Except, the end of the movie, from out of fucking nowhere, they have this idea for how to wrap it up that is so fucking ridiculous. So, he's just killing randomly, and he's leaving behind his calling card, his fucking Joker card, where he's, like, making satanic symbols, things like open the gates, 666, hail Satan stuff. He's leaving all of that behind on every kill, so he gets the name Satanic Slasher. And then he needs to get information on some interesting individual. So he puts an ad in the newspaper, and then some goober calls him. Well, some goober puts an ad in the paper responding to his ad in the paper. It's a Satanist code, and it basically says, so you're enlightened, give me a ring, here's my telephone number. So Satanic Slasher calls him. Also, the detective picks up on this. Worth mentioning, every single kill doesn't matter, by the way. Like, all the clues she's gathering play no role in this, and she also makes the worst decisions ever for her investigation. So, like, she actually did track down the Satanic Slasher at one point, and then instead of waiting for backup to ambush him in his apartment, well, at the motel that he was staying at, She instead just goes in for a solo mission and gets blasted. He throws her out of a window, and then the scene immediately cuts to her, like, once again on the road tracking him. This is what I'm saying, where, like, there's no other characters, because she did interact with, like, some FBI guy. He's like, go home, this is above your pay grade, you get yourself hurt, it's not good, you go home, you can't take the satanic slasher, it's ridiculous. You give me your badge and your gun, that kind of vibe type shit. And so you would expect that to play a role in it, how she's kind of going off book here against her, higher level people advising her not to. But it doesn't, because they forget those characters exist. So she is, like, confronting him alone multiple times. Obviously, it never works out. FBI shows up late, obviously. It's just, there aren't any other characters, and it's weird. But anyway, so he gets in contact with Satan goobers, and then he goes to, like, a Satan house where, like, there's this businessman who's giving a speech on why he loves Satan so much, and then his groupies are there like, yeah, that's cool stuff, the fallen one, yippee, yeehaw, and the satanic slashers being all mysterious and brooding, just saying he needs information. So then the goober that connected with him gets him the information on a random guy. Then he kills the Satan church people who are having an orgy, and it's a CGI bloodfest where he's hitting him with an axe, and then there's just actual, like, video game cutscene level blood flying all over the place. It's so fucking bad. But this is where I'm telling you the ending gets unreal. So, that person that they gave him the information on is a nuclear engineer. And from out of nowhere, we learn about a nuclear disaster that happened 3 years prior at a place called 3 Mile Island, which had a huge death count, obviously. That was very detrimental to the civilians. And the Psycho Killer's big plan has been to go to the nuclear power plant with some explosives that he stole way back early into his killing spree. And also, there was a mention about how he got some books from a library. Turns out he got nuclear books, which doesn't matter because he ends up just kidnapping the nuclear power plant executive or engineer guy anyway to do it for him. So why did he even bother buying or stealing the books in the first place? It didn't fucking matter. He had no clue how any of it worked. So he just kidnapped the guy. So he kidnaps that nuclear engineer, goes to the power plant. The trooper Archer was able to connect those dots and meet him there after he had already done everything, after all the alarms go off. So after everyone else figures it out because there's something going on, she then shows up. Then Psycho Killer has the guy melt down the core, about to cause a nuclear disaster that they keep saying, my God, it's going to wipe out the entire East Coast. Lord have mercy on us all. And then one of the security guards is like, wait, there might be another way in. And he takes Trooper Archer to a random room that happens to overlook the command center with a sheet of plexiglass, and he's like, yeah, that's bulletproof, so we're all fucked, but I guess you get a better view from here. And he just runs away, and then she shoots the plexiglass enough that it makes a little hole. She puts a sniper in there, takes out the Psycho Killer, saves the day. But the plan from out of nowhere became the Psycho Killer is going to cause a nuclear disaster for Satan. And he gives a big, like, Satan speech at the end. Oh my God, it's so fucking cringe. It's unbelievable. And then there's a twist. There is a twist at the end. So, early on in the movie, when she was still learning about the satanic slasher, she was flipping through some fucking AM radio stations, and she stumbled across, like, a conspiracy theory power hour where they were talking about how the government is experimenting on mass murderers. So, like, all the mass murderers are actually, like, government experiments that they turn loose. And at the end of the movie, after she kills the Psycho Killer, but he doesn't actually die, he wakes up in a big van going to an off-grid facility where they welcome him back. It's a government facility, so it turns out the conspiracy was correct. Big twist, they are making the mass murderers at the government facility, and he's one of them. The movie's fucking bad. It's not good. But I would be lying if I said I didn't have a fun time watching it. I do think, for the most part, it's fun bad. And I say that with a little hesitation because the movie is so messy, like the editing is so choppy, and it's very clear that they had to fucking Frankenstein something together here just to get a complete film, that at pretty much every possible point, it doesn't really fit. But I think that makes it fun bad too. Like, I don't think that ruins the entertainingly shit nature of it. Like, it's not a movie I would recommend paying for, because I don't think it's fun bad enough to waste money on. But I think when it eventually hits streaming, it'll be something that you and your friends can laugh at. So yeah, anyway, does it deserve a 0%? Maybe not a 0, but it definitely is a very, 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 very low percent. Like, I do think that is probably par for the course there. It's just really bad at everything it aims to do, unfortunately. Anyway, though, that's really about it. So yeah. So I just saw Him. This is a movie that a lot of people are clowning on. It's not doing too hot right now. People are taking their turns spitting at it. And now that I've seen it, I'd like to weigh in. Is everyone blowing it out of proportion, or is this film really as bad as everyone claims it is? Kinda. Like, it's not a good movie, but I don't think it's, like, unwatchably horrible. There was real potential here. The concept alone I find kind of fascinating. A football horror movie. There are so many elements you could explore there, from like CTE and stuff like that, and then play with the audience's perception of it. And I've seen other people mention this, but you also have like the built-in goat, where it symbolizes something more satanic, and maybe exploring like what it would mean to sacrifice everything to become the best at it. All things I feel like would be a fucking easy touchdown here for them to explore with this movie, and kind of expected them to. But it doesn't. It's a film that doesn't really have anything that it wants to get across to the audience at all. Most of the movie is kind of just like a bunch of scenes thrown together without really giving you any reason to care about, like, even the main character and what he's going through. Which is a shame, because the performances across the board are really strong, especially Marlon Wayans. I actually thought he did an amazing job as the villain here. But there's nothing like really fleshed out about it. There's nothing to care about, and there's nothing to get invested in story-wise. It's kind of a mess. And most people are saying the same thing, style over substance. And that's very true. It is a stylistically good movie. Like, it actually does show real potential. The cinematography is extremely interesting, especially when they do like these X-ray scenes. Then they get like really like visceral with it. It's very cool. Like, I actually thought they did a great job with some of like the wild scenes that they showcase, but it just doesn't go anywhere or contribute to anything. And then the second half, well, not the second half, the last like 30 minutes of the movie is dedicated to just getting rid of all of like the abstract and all of like the mystery of it, and just beating home what it all is. Spoiler alert, it's like cult ritualistic shit. That kind of thing. And then it all of a sudden, all at once, just becomes like a normal Hollywood slop buffet, where it even ends with Cameron Cade, he's the main character, going on a killing spree, taking down all the bad cult members with a sword and an axe, like chopping their head off and disemboweling them. It's very goofy. And it like completely betrays everything else the movie like seemed to want to be, like very artsy and very interesting, like aesthetically. But again, like, it just feels like this film didn't even know what it wanted to do with this concept. And it is a good concept, just poorly utilized. Also, I think a lot of people are extremely misled with this film. I've seen a lot of buzz about how Jordan Peele fell off. Man, is he washed? Because the marketing for him has Jordan Peele's name all over it. Like, if you didn't know any better and you were just going off the trailers, you would think Jordan Peele personally made this film with his own two hands and his own blood, sweat, and tears, start to finish, and no one else even worked on it. His name is plastered all over this film for their marketing push. But he didn't direct this movie. He is a producer of it. He had, from what I understand, no hand in the actual making of this film. He was a producer. So this is not a Jordan Peele film, but because his name is like attached to it, they decided to go hog wild with that as like its main marketing hook. It's pretty shameful. It's very misleading. So a lot of people, I think, probably expected this to be a Jordan Peele movie, but it's not at all. Anyway, though, to lay like the foundation of what the film is even really about, Cameron Cade is the next up-and-coming great, and there is a football player named Isaiah White, played by Marlon Wayans, who is the undisputed GOAT. He is the best to ever play the game. He is football, damn it. and he is on the verge of retiring, and everyone's looking to Cameron Cade to fill his shoes. He has all the makings of being the next great. But he gets attacked and gets a very severe concussion that then ruins his chances of making it to the league because he has to skip the combine. And Isaiah White decides to kind of mentor him, let him suckle from his bosom of greatness to try and, spruce him up, get him back on his feet to recover from this injury so he can be the player that he should be, that everyone expects him to be. So he takes him into like his training camp, his boot camp, which is just hell. And it's real weird and wacky. And Isaiah, he's kind of all over the place. He's on edge. He's fucking going Insano style. And he's like being tortured almost in order to like bring out his greatness. And there's people that are getting, even killed going through all of this training. And you, as the viewer, are left wondering, well, what's it all mean? What's it all for? And the answer is crickets. It's fucking, like, it doesn't go anywhere. At the last 30 minutes, they basically just tell you, oh, it turns out it's a cult, and they pass blood down from one generation of goat to the next. And this is their passing of the torch. But Isaiah doesn't want to give it up without a fight, so now they both have the blood of the goat in them, and one has to kill the other, and then sign the contract with the devil, basically, in order to be the next best football player. And it all happens like that. So they build up like this slow, abstract, like adventure that never really says anything, and then at the end it just fucking vomits it all out at once. It's just kind of lame. I just think they didn't know what they wanted to do here. It felt like the writers were concussed when they were coming up with this. Like they had all of these ideas, but they didn't know how to make them work together. And at times it feels like they didn't even know what kind of movie they were making in the first place. Like it wants to be really artsy and even abstract pretty often, yet it doesn't commit to that at all. Like it completely gets rid of that by the end anyway. And even when they were in their like artsy fartsy, pinky up mode, it still wasn't saying anything. It wasn't even delivering a message. It was just feeding you chaotic scenes with like a wacky score, like a wacky background music and noise making to make it feel eerie and deep. But it doesn't actually do anything. And it feels like it wants to do everything at once. So like it's billed as a horror movie. It's not one. Like there's nothing scary about this film at all, and it doesn't try to be. But it does borrow something from the horror genre, like 2 jump scares. And then they introduce like these cultish fans of Isaiah White who only have maybe 2 minutes of screen time, where one of them comes in and tries to hit Cameron with a rock, but then she gets choked out and then thrown against the wall. Again, the idea would probably be to play off of like how, sports fans will sometimes worship their favorite player. And like there's potential there to explore in a film, but this is not the one that does it. It doesn't even like begin to. It just takes like the general idea of it and shows you like a brief snippet without ever like diving into it or giving any kind of like actual commentary on it or a resolution to it. It's just, it doesn't really feel like it knows what it wanted to do with this concept. Really, the worst part about my experience with him was the meal I ate going into it. I was really hungry beforehand and I had a little time to kill, so I got a tuna sandwich and mac and cheese. A diabolical combination that made an unholy concoction in my gut that had me struggling with bubble guts throughout the entire film. And I will admit, a traitorous fart or two may have escaped my cheeks, but it seems like this movie's kind of flopping. There weren't a whole ton of people in that theater, so the auditorium wasn't exactly, hitting the PU who did that or anything. It kind of just, got to dissipate without disrupting many people's, viewing of him. In my quest to watch every video game movie ever made, I just made it to one that I was really dreading. And boy howdy did it hit me like a brick. A punishment I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. Watching the Assassin's Creed movie. I have a theory that most people that watch this film in theaters dumped it from their memories as a way of coping with the traumatic experience of watching something so criminally boring. I think as a defense mechanism, the human body voided the memory of this film's existence from a lot of people that were unfortunately subjected to its horrors. Now, the way I'm portraying it here makes it sound like it's one of the worst movies ever made that's damn near unwatchable. And that's because it's not far off. Not because I think it's objectively as bad as some of the other films I've already watched, like Silent Hill Revelations. There are definitely worse video game movies that have been made, for sure. But this one just does everything that nobody asked for. It is like the perfect epitome of taking a property that you're adapting and then just wiping your ass with pretty much everything to do with it. And I think what makes it more insulting is that there's glimmers of potential throughout the movie, like specifically with its action choreography. They do a really good job of capturing the free running and parkour of the games as well as the combat of the games in this movie. It's really flashy, it's really stylistic. Like, they do a very good job and a pretty faithful attempt at recreating that experience in a movie. I was very impressed with that. But everything else around it is a complete disaster. By far, its biggest sin is how boring the movie is, and that's because instead of just, you know, as the games would set you up, getting into the Animus, getting into the action, and you are in the Animus in the past doing all your assassin shit, instead of making that the focal point, instead it's mainly about this tedious chore of following our brooding, aggressive protagonist Cal, played by Michael Fassbender, around Abstergo as he talks to a lady who wants to end violence. She found the cure for violence, it's the Apple of Eden. Cal comes directly from the assassin's bloodline. They find him, he's very aggressive. Like, he watched his father kill his mother when he was a kid, and then he ran away. His father was, of course, an assassin. He ran away, and he grew up to be very violent, and he fights people. And he was on death row. He was getting, killed because he killed a pimp. They make a point at making that, like, what he was facing the death penalty for. She was like, "You're very violent." And he says, "Yeah, you killed someone, didn't you? You're a murderer." And he's like, "Well, I mean, I killed a pimp." So because he murdered a pimp, he was getting killed on death row, and then the Templar come in and save him because they recognize that he's got the blood, and they need him to jack into the Animus so they can go into the past and find the Apple of Eden through him. And they have all of Abstergo set up with all of these other adjacent assassins in there that they've been exploring to try and find clues, but they need Cal. And Cal's just brooding, and he sometimes makes wisecracks, but he's just so boring. Everything that happens in Abstergo is a snooze fest. And it's really some weird decisions they made with the Animus itself, because instead of just lying down in the Animus, they make it a giant claw. Literally like my GamerSup's claw machine, it is a giant claw that picks him up and does this with him, like gyrates him around for all of his parkour maneuvers, and it like thrusts him into a wall as he's like going back to the past. I don't really get the point, and this movie is entirely reliant on lens flare to obstruct your view of its CGI. It's a huge budget film, but for some reason it seems really shy about showing you its visual effects. So that claw, you never even get a clear picture of because it is constantly like a fucking solar flare hitting your retinas. Like your peepers getting melted like that guy from SpongeBob when the bald head shines in his direction. I don't know why they would even bother changing the Animus to something more intricate like that when they're not even going to show you it. And it also doesn't even matter. It does not do anything. It doesn't really change anything. It's just goofy and silly. It's like they really wanted to make like some deep sci-fi spin off the Animus, even though it's already very like deep tech. I don't know. I really don't know what they thought they were cooking there, but they fucking burnt that dish for sure. But when you finally do get into 15th century Spain with one of Cal's ancestors, it's really fine. Like, the parkour I said looks good. The action is actually pretty impressive. The story sucks. I don't think it's even worth diving into the narrative here. The story and the writing are atrocious. I think most of you know this by now. I am not the biggest Assassin's Creed enthusiast. I am one of its most adamant haters. I am a D1 Assassin's Creed not enjoyer. I am constantly screaming it from the mountaintops. I have not liked Assassin's Creed in about a decade. Like Black Flag, I know it's a really cold take, but Black Flag was the last one I liked, and I didn't even like that as much as everyone else seemed to. I just don't like the franchise. It's not for me. I don't have any problem with people liking it, though. That's totally fine. It's just not for me anymore. I find it to just be really not fun. So right away, this movie already had a tall mountain to climb in regards to my personal taste, but everything they did here narratively was so much worse than any of the Assassin's Creed games. And I've played pretty much all of them. I always give them a fair shake for the most part. I don't know why they wouldn't just take one of the storylines that had already been established through so many of these games. It would have been far easier, and it would have made a lot more sense than what they tried to conjure up with this dog shit. It is a disaster. Like I said, the Templars want to cure violence. They found the cure to aggression with the Apple of Eden, which takes away free will. Their whole plan is get rid of free will so we can control them and there's no longer any violence. And the lead scientist at the Templars is someone that you grow kind of sympathetic with, like, oh, seems like she might start to realize this is a bad idea, like, oh, maybe the Templar can't be trusted with something so powerful. Her motivation makes sense. Her mother was killed by an assassin. Now she wants to find the Apple of Eden to make sure that kind of tragedy doesn't happen to anybody else. Fast forward through the adventures of finding the Apple of Eden. It's really underwhelming. Like, everything that happened in the Animus with action was cool, but everything that happened story-wise was really silly, because it turns out the Apple of Eden was with Christopher Columbus the whole time. Christopher Columbus was associated with the assassins, and he held the Apple of Eden in his grave. So when the Templar learned that, they just go to where Christopher Columbus was buried and just ask for it. They're like, oh, the Apple of Eden? Yeah, it's right over here. We got it. It's in this box, actually. Like, it was just in their desk the whole time, right under their nose. This entire time. It was so lame. And speaking of lame, the entire character arc of Cal sucks major wiener. So Cal's dad kills his mom right in front of him. And it's, that really fucks him up. Understandably so. So he spends his whole life, like, just being mean and aggressive, and he, like, hates his dad, wants his dad to die. So, like, his final words on the deathbed were, "Tell my father I'll see him in hell." That's what he says. It's so edgy and so grossly cringe. But we do get to see his dad. Abstergo actually has his dad there because they were using him to find more information on the Apple of Eden. So then he gets to meet his dad. He's like, "Papa, I hate you." And he's like, "I get that. Is it because I killed your mother? I did do that. I did kill your mother. But I did it for her own good. The assassins must protect the Apple of Eden. We have a creed we must uphold. The Assassin's Creed." And Cal has the hidden blade to him, and he's like, "If you're going to kill me, Cal, just do it. I do deserve it." And he's like, "Do it yourself." And gives him the blade. So that's like their closure moment. And then eventually everything goes tits up after they learn about the Apple of Eden. All the assassins gang up with Cal to rise up against Abstergo so they can't get the Apple of Eden and take away free will. And Cal's dad, he has his hero moment where everyone's rising up, including Cal's dad. And Cal's dad kills one guy while he was like looking in the corner, Blair Witch style. He turns around, kills one guy, and then immediately just gets ganked. Like, the other three dudes stab him a bunch, and he just dies. And that's the last you ever see of Cal's dad. I don't know what the point of even bringing him back was. He added nothing. Truly a waste. And also, the entire, like, rising up against Abstergo was super weird, because all of the Abstergo employees, all of the security, they make a point of saying it was like a $9 trillion operation with the Animus and all of the Abstergo, like, henchmen and all their hired muscle, and yet not a single one of them has a gun. In fact, the only weapons Abstergo has are the weapons the assassins are proficient in: crossbows, knives, swords, and hidden blades. That's all they have. And keep in mind, the Abstergo employees, they are not assassins, they're just hired hands. Like, you would expect them to have some fucking guns, not a single gun. The only projectile weapon they have is crossbows, and they don't even use that. Only the assassins get that. They literally have that there just so the assassins can make sure they're fully equipped to rise up against them. I don't know what the plan was. It was so fucking wacky. Anyway, though, the movie ends with them getting the apple back, and to get the apple back, Cal ended up killing that lady's dad. I forgot both of their names. They were just so underwhelming. I do not remember those character names. But the scientist girl, she actually saw Cal's flashback, or rather, his synchronization with the bloodline of the Assassin's Creed. So she saw all of the other assassins that Cal was seeing, and one of them was her. One of her ancestors was actually an assassin. Meanwhile, she is now a Templar scientist. And you think that this is the moment where they're planting the breadcrumb that she's going to turn, and she's going to be the one to stop her father from taking away free will with the apple. But in fact, all it is her father gets the apple, and she's talking to him like, "Papa, I don't like what you're about to do with this." And he's like, "I understand, but thanks for writing my speech. This one's for you." So then he goes out there, and to all the Templar, like the whole organization, he's like, "I have the Apple of Eden. It's right here, the sacred apple of Eden. Free will is gone. We can control free will, and those pesky assassins are vanquished once I use this apple of Eden. And then Cal approaches the scientist lady, and he's like, you know what I have to do, right? And she's like, yeah. So then he walks by her, and then just kills her dad. No issue at all, no hiccups, just walks up, kills the dad, and then takes the apple. And then the scientist lady goes up to the dad's body while his corpse is cold. She sheds a tear. And then she decides that she wants to double down and get the apple back and kill every assassin. We must eradicate the assassins and take away free will. Even though just minutes ago, she had a huge issue with what her dad was about to do. Meanwhile, she is now completely flip-flopped and wants the exact same thing. What the fuck? I don't know what they were trying to set up, but they didn't follow through on it. I feel like they probably were going in a different direction at some point and then just said, fuck it, just ship it. And it just doesn't connect. It doesn't really work. Nothing in the movie really works aside from its action. That's the only saving grace of this film, and it doesn't save it. This movie is so boring. I already didn't like Assassin's Creed as a property, and this made me like it even less. It's just insulting. It's bad. It's not good. That's really about it. So yeah. I'm not exactly a huge fan of the recent Jurassic World movies. That's not a surprise for anyone to hear. I've talked about it before. But I am happy to report that with the new Jurassic World movie, Rebirth, the tradition has been kept alive of me falling asleep during these films. I dozed off for a handful of minutes during their third rodeo trying to gather some blood from a dino. It was the final one they were getting the blood of. So, let's just get into it. I think it's stinky. I think there's so little to like about the movie. The question on everyone's mind, though, is it worse than Dominion? No, it is a little better than Dominion. Is that a compliment? Not exactly. Again, this is like saying poop is better than shit. It is better than Dominion, so if that's all you want, then maybe you'll be pleased with the film in that respect. I don't know. Basically, the movie is two films. You have a really very predictable plot of these mercenaries are contacted by Big Corpo to go on this mission to dangerous Dino Island that's prohibited for travel. Human beings aren't allowed to set foot there. It's too dangerous. They need to go there to gather blood from three really big dinosaurs because they have big hearts, and gathering blood from them can lead to a big cure to cardiovascular diseases and stuff like that. Very simple. So you get a ragtag team of mercenaries together. They're wisecracking and they're badass and going to a dinosaur island to shoot syringes in dinosaurs, and that's that. That's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. But what does bother me is that the other half of this film is you follow a family who takes a vacation to Dinosaur Island, basically. And that becomes the focal point of the film. That family, this boring family, is what you follow start to finish. And it's not like you even get like character arcs, like with this family dynamic. You get actually nothing. You don't get morsels of anything. You get like actually that's all you get with this film. So the family, they were going on a little adventure on their boat through dinosaur territory for some reason. I don't know why. Naturally, they ran into a dinosaur and they're shocked by it and then got rescued by this mercenary team. So now they're field tripping with them to the dinosaur island, and now they're all trying to survive there. It sucks. Let's get into spoilers. I really want to talk about it in depth. So here's your spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Alright, now it's over. Let's start with my biggest problem here, which is how uninteresting it is watching this family just go through the jungle and do nothing, and lightly jog away from dinosaurs sometimes. The characters there aren't even interesting. They're just so flat. The closest thing you have to a character that develops is the daughter's boyfriend is a huge douchebag. They establish that early on, like he's really lazy. He's like, "Oh, Pops, I'm tired. Can you just handle the wheel?" He's like, "No, but I've been up like all night. You know, I really would like you to kind of take the helm for a minute while I go to sleep." He's like, "No, you got it, right? You fucking got it. Let me go touch on those nipples or something. Yeah, I'm real weird and I'm douchey." And that's that character. That's all he is. And the dad doesn't respect him, doesn't understand what his daughter sees in him. Then they end up on Dino Island, and he does like one thing where he like puts himself in danger to try and save the daughter, and then goes right back to just being a douchebag, and the dad's like, I respect you for what you did, and he's like, I'm gonna go take a piss. And then nothing even happens, like, with that character. He just stays a douchebag the whole time, and none of the family is ever in any actual danger. Like, it feels like they're playing with God mode on, like they have cheats enabled. They are never actually in danger, and every fucking scene where they try and, like, set up tension with dinosaurs is so lackluster. It's such a wet fart of tension, because it always is just, they're, like, scrambling slowly to get away from a dinosaur, and the dinosaur inexplicably, like, starts entering 0.5 speed, so it's, like, kind of moving like this, and then it'll, like, chomp at them a little bit, and always miss by quite a bit, like it's not even really trying, and it just doesn't compute. It's so silly because it doesn't build tension when you know these characters aren't actually in danger, because these dinosaurs are fucking lobotomized, and they're not even dinosaurs. They're basically just like these weird amalgamations of like dinosaur DNA and like mumbo jumbo mythical beasts. So you have like these pseudo dinosaurs that are like the threats, and they're just terrible at eating people. Like, they're actually awful at hunting. It's a miracle that they're even surviving on their own on this island, because they can't even hunt like a child that doesn't even know that the dinosaur is there. It's stupid, man. Like, it's not tense. The dinosaur designs, I think, are cool. Like, if I was to give a compliment to the movie, I actually think they crushed the dinosaur designs. Like, they have this xenomorph dinosaur, which I think is a big improvement over the Jokersaurus Rex from the previous film. If anyone remembers that, the director came out and said that this new dinosaur is a lot like the Joker. It just wants to watch the world burn. Cringiest shit ever. In here, they have a xenomorph dinosaur, and I shit you not, he himself, like, the man behind the dinosaur came forward and even said it's inspired by xenomorphs. And it's a cool design, but it's also, like, the world's most inefficient dinosaur ever. It can't move at a top speed faster than your geriatric grandfather, and it also is just really bad at, like, catching things or doing things. Like, it's honestly just kind of sad. Like, when, like, it doesn't show up until, like, the last 10 minutes, so it doesn't have a whole lot to do in the first place, but when it's there, I just kind of felt bad for it. Yeah, like, I really did, because it can't do fucking anything at all. I don't know how it hasn't starved. Maybe there's some kind of modification in its DNA where it photosynthesizes sunbeams or some shit, because it is not a good hunter. It is terrible. It is terrible. Even though the design is, like, actually really cool, like, it does look like a scary dinosaur design. It's not even a dinosaur, like I said, it's more like a fucking mutant creature thing. But even though it's very cool, it's not intimidating, if that makes sense. Like, they make the dinosaur kind of a joke. So there's supposed to be a hero sacrifice at the end where Scarlett Johansson's best friend, one of the other mercenaries, the only other mercenary that gets even the slightest semblance of fleshing out or anything about the character established, he is about to sacrifice himself to save the family because they notice that this dinosaur really likes light. He is drawn to light, like moths to a flame. So he lights a flare and starts running in the opposite direction to lure the dinosaur away from everyone else who's getting on a boat. Dinosaur obviously follows him. Dinosaur is basically moving through molasses because it is abominably slow. And he is now cornered. He is trapped. There is nowhere for him to go. He is face to face with this monster, this killing machine. And you expect that he dies there. The dinosaur leaves. You don't see him have an on-screen death or anything. The dinosaur leaves and starts going towards the boat again very, 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 very slowly, so it's not actually a threat or anything. And then they're just, you know, all really sad because they think they think he just gave his life for theirs. But then he shoots a flare and it turns out all he did was just kind of swim away a little bit. Not even that far, he just swam away. So the fucking dinosaur couldn't even kill one guy who had no weapons, completely defenseless, had fully accepted his fate of death, nowhere to go, still couldn't even kill that guy. Like, it's not like he put up a fight or anything. He didn't just start, you know, throwing up some hands up here and fucking boxing with him and scared him or anything. He is completely unharmed, unscathed. It just gently swam away a little bit. So then they pick him up and he's totally fine. And then it's, you know, happily ever after. The dinosaur is fucking worthless. That thing is pathetic. Overall, it is just so boring following this family for the vast majority of this film. Like, they don't even, like, grow as a family or anything. They just, like, sleepwalk their way through the island and end up on the boat with the mercenaries, and the day is saved. And let's talk about the mercenaries, because I think that had potential to be cool, but it's not. So, like, Scarlett Johansson she was on autopilot in this film. There is not even a modicum of effort that comes across on screen, and I can't blame her. She's working with like the weakest script ever. I understand why she wouldn't try very hard here, but my god, it is lazy and lackluster. But she's supposed to be like this crack shot, like she is the one that the corpo suit approaches to like hire for this job, and then she assembles the team and she's the leader of the team. And immediately when it's her turn to get this DNA from the dinosaurs, they're going after the water one first. And it's like this giant water monster that very conveniently shows itself like above the water for a long period of time. And then it like splashes some water at her. And then she immediately misfires because water got splashed. So she immediately misfires and the dart is way off course. So now they have to resort to a backup dart, which they do have some spares. But it off rip, her very first demonstration of like how elite she is, she fucking flops. She immediately fails in what is kind of like a trivial situation. Like you would expect a dinosaur to be splashing water, like a giant dinosaur. Like that's something she should have expected. But she fucking freaks out and like shoots it. And then it falls into what I just mentioned with the family thing where like she's like a bigger wave comes after it does like a, you know, fucking backflip or whatever. And then it knocks her off balance. So she's hanging off the boat and the dinosaur's like trying to chomp at her and missing somehow. And then she like regains her footing and then shoots it because luckily the dinosaur for some reason has just stayed above the water this entire time instead of diving down like it has many times in the past. And then after she gets the blood, then it dives down and the you know, all's really good. Nothing but sunshine from there. Very beautiful timing, honestly. It's like the dinosaur just wanted its blood taken. It was hoping to get the results. Oh man, and without even talking about the mercenary and family plotline, which again feels like two very conflicting movies that they just really terribly slammed together. Like even outside of that, what they set up here sucks. Like the very start of this movie I thought was embarrassing, like laughable. So this island was once a laboratory where they were, you know, crossbreeding dinosaurs to try and make designer dinosaurs to entertain guests because people were getting bored of the same tired old dinosaurs. So they were theory crafting and using some wacky science to basically make Fortnite skin dinosaurs, making all kinds of zany creatures. And then, unfortunately, one of the scientists was eating a snack, a candy bar. And the candy bar wrapper fell to the floor without him noticing, and as he was going through the safety protocol and going into one of the facilities with the xenomorph dinosaur, the candy wrapper got sucked up into the door and blew it up. So the candy wrapper gets sucked into this door, which prevents it from closing, which then triggers the entire security system to reboot, which for some reason triggers the entire security system to just unleash all of the things in containment. And then everyone dies, and now this island is infested with all of these mutant dinosaurs. What the fuck kind of system is that? Who designed that system where, like, a door having a problem ends up releasing every security parameter all at once? What? Like, my god, that laboratory deserved to go up in flames. If it wasn't a candy wrapper that did them in, they probably would have left the fucking gas stove on and caused a fucking explosion or something. It's crazy. How is that the plot to how these dinosaurs took over this island? That is mind-bogglingly bad. I really didn't like pretty much anything about this movie, I'm sorry to say. I haven't seen too much of the response to this film from others. I don't know if I'm on like big hot take mode with this, but I thought it sucked. I thought there was maybe like a couple of decent scenes where like the dinosaurs like were somewhat intimidating. It was mainly when the dinosaurs were interacting with each other as opposed to the humans, because once the humans were there, it just felt like you were on like a fucking Universal theme park ride or something. Like there's just, I don't know, I didn't like it. It also felt like no one was even trying. The mercenaries, they're supposed to be like these really tight-knit friends, and they establish like, oh, we're really close. So like Scarlett Johansson's character Zora, she's the leader and she's like talking to the others and they're like real good pals. Two of them die in like their first encounter with that water dinosaur, and she doesn't give a fuck. She couldn't care less. She's just like, alright, so they're gone, let's move on. Who cares? What? Big whoop. You want to fight about it? Meanwhile, the other mercenary, who's like kind of another main character, he's like, wow, these were my friends and now they're gone. And like he at least somewhat gets emotional. Scarlett Johansson, it's like she didn't even know him. They were complete strangers. It was like a mosquito got killed or something. That's how little she gave a shit. It's just, It really feels like this movie had no reason to even get made other than they knew Jurassic World slapped on anything would make money, so they just shipped out the easiest to produce, by the numbers, boring, uninspired dinosaur movie you could possibly envision. It also borrows blatantly from some good Jurassic Park moments and does them worse in this movie. Like, there are some recognizable scenes you will see that they emulate here to a much worse degree. There's just really nothing in this movie I thought that it did a great job with, especially when you compare it to, like, good Jurassic Park, which I guess maybe is just not fair to do anymore with the state of how this franchise is. But I just can't help but to. And, like, even in the confines of this own movie, on its own two legs, it doesn't even follow through with some of the shit it itself seems to have wanted to get to. Like, I already mentioned the boyfriend. The boyfriend is a character like they kind of just forgot about towards the end, because they were building up like he's trying to earn the father's respect. By the end, all they did is have him talk less, so you, as the viewer, stop getting as annoyed with him. Like, that was the character arc. He learned to shut the fuck up. Like, they set this up as like, oh, okay, this character's going to evolve into maybe more of like a hero character who cares about this family a lot, and the dad's going to respect him by the end. But then you get to the end of the movie, that doesn't happen. All that happens is the boyfriend, he forgets words, and the dad forgets he's there. The end of how that story element plays out. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. Like, I guess it's kind of implied the dad respects him a little more because the boyfriend survived and did try and help the daughter and the family. The point is, the movie doesn't even really follow through on a lot of these characters and their development or anything in general. Like, I just don't like the movie. I'll stop yapping about it. I didn't come in here with high expectations, but somehow I found myself even more uninterested than I expected to be, and even less satisfied with the 2 hours I spent there than I expected I would be. And that's really about it. So yeah. You read the title, you already know my overall thoughts on Squid Game Season 3. I found it to be very disappointing, but now let's dive into the spaghetti and meatballs of that thought process. Let me go ahead and take you on a journey through my neurons here, get you with the mind freak of why I thought this was such a letdown of the season. Getting into spoilers. Big spoiler warning. Brace for impact. Here she comes. You've been warned. Season 3 doesn't really give you answers for a lot of the things that it was gearing up towards. Like, it felt like Season 2 was setting a lot of building blocks for things that would be answered in Season 3, only for Season 3 to roll around in here with Whiskey Dick and provide absolutely none of those answers or any closure to a lot of the things that it felt like it was building towards. Best example, let's just get one right away, rip a band-aid off. The detective. The detective, Huang, from Season 1, it felt like he was going to have a crucial role in Season 2 and 3, which I remember Season 2 and 3, the idea was they're supposed to be watched together. It's like one season, but they split it in half. But even if you watch them together, it doesn't change anything. The detective, he basically becomes like this naval explorer. He's looking for this island. He's just constantly out on a journey trying to find this island with Captain Park, who they never make any progress. They keep trying to chip away at it, but they never get anywhere. It's not until the actual last episode that he finds the island. And by that point, it's too late to do anything. Now, of course, some things happen with the detective and learning that the captain maybe is a little shadier than he thought. Maybe the captain's in on it. I don't know why I'm like beating around the bush. I already said this is a spoiler. I'm not going to fucking tiptoe around here with foreplay. He learns that the captain is part of the Squid Game. He works with the upper echelon, the top brass. So like that kind of stuff happens, and that's okay, I guess. But it doesn't lead to anything. So the detective eventually finds the island in the last episode. He goes to the island for no shit, less than 30 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. There is literally a 30-second countdown because it's about to self-destruct because the game is over by the time he gets there. So he spends less than 30 minutes in there, and we only have 3 scenes of his presence in the actual Squid Game trying to find his brother, because his brother is now the leader of it. He's the puppet master, and he's trying to get answers from his brother, and he knows this is the last time he's going to be able to see him because he's not going to be able to find him again. So he gets there, doesn't find his brother until he breaks some glass, and then he watches his brother leave. And he says, "Why? Why?" His brother says nothing, and he leaves. And then so does the detective. That's the end. That is the end of the detective's whole character arc. He spends 2 seasons. He dedicates like his life to trying to find this island, trying to find his brother, only to find the island, do nothing. And then like the final, montage here, it's like a happily ever after for him where they're talking about like, man, what are we going to do now that we succeeded in, finding all this? It's like, what the fuck? You didn't succeed. You actually did nothing. If you took the detective out of season 2 and 3 and everyone associated with like the trying to find the island, nothing changes. Actually nothing. So they're patting themselves on the back, fucking fingering each other's buttholes about how great of a job they did to get to the bottom of it, when they didn't do anything. All they did was arrive to the island as it was basically blowing up, going nuclear. Like, it's such a waste. Like, what is even the point in even bringing them back for that when they have nothing to do? There was no payoff. We didn't even learn anything from their investigation other than his brother is the top brass and Captain Park, well, he got involved with them and took the bad guys fishing, then became like a close pal of theirs. And then we learned like he was also in like gambling debt, which is how he even got there in the first place. But like, none of it matters. None of that matters. Now, there's a lot I want to get into the weeds of, but I want to give you some of my like positives about it, because I don't think the season was like horrible or like unwatchable or like ruins Squid Game or anything. Like, there are things that I do think were done well. Best example of that in this season was the hide-and-seek tag game, where one team had a knife, the other team was trying to avoid them and trying to find the exit, and the objective was you have to kill at least one person in order to pass. That was extremely tense, it was done extraordinarily well, and it had some really powerful, very powerful character moments. I just yapped about like the entire plot summary of this episode, but I'm going to just remove that here because I don't know why I'm just regurgitating all of that. This is like spoiler talk, I'm assuming you've already seen it, but I think what they did with the mother and her son, that dynamic that they built up through season 1, I love the way they handle it here in this game, where the son still he lets people walk all over him. He cannot bring himself to kill someone in this game. The mother tries to sacrifice herself, letting her son stab her so her son can live, but he can't bring himself to do it, so instead he targets the newborn baby, and the mother instinctively reacts by killing her son, and he still apologizes as he's passing away in her arms. I thought that was handled really, really well, and I think it makes perfect sense for everything that they were building towards there. I also think Hyunju's death was extremely powerful. The superstar of the rebellion, she was doing incredible work in protecting the people she cares about. In this game, she was protecting the mother, the baby, and the older woman. She eventually defeats and kills someone that was trying to harm them and finds the exit, and as she's going to get her friends to the exit, she gets stabbed in the back and killed by Myung-ji, which is the father of the baby. Murders her right in front of them. I thought that was excellent. Like, it was extremely sad, it was very emotional, and it was something that made a lot of sense. We had seen that he had teamed up with Namgyu, and they're going around just like slaughtering people, trying to like get more prize money added to the pot, but also he's killing people to try and reduce the amount of people that can be a threat to his girl and the baby, and ends up killing the person that is protecting them. And while I do really like this game and the episodes around it, like, I think the first 2.5 episodes are very strong. There is some stinkiness present, and this is going to get into my big complaints because this is what happens a lot. A character like Daiho, you'll remember in season 2, it built him up as like a marine. He's like a happy-go-lucky guy, but he's also, rough, tough. He's not afraid to, get down and dirty until shit hits the fan, and he's tasked with getting the magazines and bringing them back while they're rebelling. He panics, freaks out, gets too scared, and he freezes, melts down, and he doesn't bring the magazines, which inevitably leads to people dying. Well, in this season, we see the repercussion of that, which is Ji-hun hates him. And now we're seeing Ji-hun wants to kill him. So in this game, he is looking for him actively to murder him. And Daiho doesn't get anything to do other than say, I lied about everything because I wanted to be cool. I wanted you guys to think I was cool. And then he fights back against Ji-hun and then gets killed. And it's like, well, why even bother keeping him around? Like, the idea, I think, was to show that Ji-hun is kind of falling apart here after everything that happened in season 2. Like, he spends the first episode kind of in a trance, this fugue state. And then he snaps out of it here while choking out and killing Daiho. And he's like, it's your fault. And then he comes to the realization, yeah, it is kind of my fault. But it's still just, you don't get a whole lot out of that character. He just says, I wanted to be cool. It's okay, well, that's not a whole lot of payoff for this character that we built up. I felt like there could have been more there, but I don't think that's like the worst case of it. Like, there are characters that get done even dirtier. Another great example, Min-Soo. He's like very cowardly, but he's not like Courage the Cowardly Dog who like rises up and like saves the day to protect the people he cares about, you know, overcoming his fears. Min-Soo in season 3 gets reduced to a drug addict. And I'm not exaggerating, he does. All he does now is he finds the Thanos cross of pills and he starts popping pills and then gets addicted to drugs, so he starts hallucinating and eventually he dies. That's it. Like, what the fuck is even the point in keeping him alive? Why did we give any attention to this guy throughout season 2 and, like, a lot of season 3 as well? Like, he does get a lot of screen time, and it seems like they're sprinkling little breadcrumbs here, a little bit of seasoning on this character that you're expecting something to come from it, but all that comes is a fucking crippling pill-popping addiction. Like, this guy's fucking fiending, he's going through withdrawals, and, like, he looks like a League of Legends player on a 10-game losing streak by the end of it. Like, it... And there's just nothing there. There's no payoff. There's nothing that comes from it. What the fuck is the point? Another big example of why are we doing this, please, you're embarrassing me, is the VIPs. I didn't like them very much in season 1. It was just cartoonishly over the top. And here it's even more cringe. Holy. Like, it was so bad I started to bring out the old notepad. That's when you know it's getting fucking rancid. So, like, one of the lines was, I spent so much money on my helicopter, but it was late. Or it was something like that. Basically, he was crying because he didn't get a chance to go in and start killing some of the people himself because the VIPs got to go in uniform and kill some of the people that didn't complete the hide-and-seek game objective. And he's like, I was late on this helicopter, I spent so much money, and now I'm the only one that didn't get to go hunting. And then the others are like, yes, you missed it. It was exquisite hunting. I go hunting a lot, but this was another level of hunting. Which is a fucking stupid line considering they were defenseless. Like you didn't really... It wasn't, like, very sportsmanlike at all. Which I guess was kind of the point, but it was still... Like, all of these lines are just so ass. And they cut to them quite a bit, where they're all just kind of hanging out in the lounge here, but it's basically just like the anime club. Like, these are some dorks. It's like one of them just keeps drinking. They're like, did you bet on 222 to win? I did. I was a little too drunk. I was sipping on the most expensive brandy, and I voted on the pregnant woman with a broken foot to win jump rope. How silly. But that also means I voted on her baby. Assuming, of course, the baby's going to be a player. And they're like, yes, of course the baby will be a player. It'll make it far more entertaining with a baby on the line. Evil, evil, evil. Evil, 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 evil. Like, that's all they do. That's all they are. And it leads to nothing. You just get the worst dialogue and the worst scenes from the VIPs. Holy shit, it's trash. I hate everything with the VIPs. And it doesn't go anywhere. Like, there's no actual, like, payoff where they get their comeuppance or anything. They just sit there, they drink a little bit, they have the worst conversations ever, and then they leave on their helicopter at the end of the season, and that's it. That's it. You don't learn anything else about them. Nothing happens to them. That's curtains. It's just, shit is terrible. Even if they did get their comeuppance, all of their scenes would still be terrible. Really, the show does fall apart on the jump rope game. Even though I don't hate the game itself, it's not as good as the glass one, obviously, but I didn't hate the game. It's very simple. You cross a bridge while jumping rope. It's literally a Mario Party minigame. Then there was a twist where once one of them got across, he started pushing the others back, killing them, basically trying to just leave it so there's only him and Ji-hun, because they're the ones that passed at the time, to win it. And I actually thought that was pretty good conceptually, and it was clear what was going to happen. Junhee was going to die here, because we saw her break her ankle in the hide-and-seek one. So it was very clear she wasn't going to make it across, so she sacrifices herself, and then it is all up to Ji-hun to protect this baby. Myung-ji is still alive here, which is the father of the baby and the former lover of Junhee, which of course now puts these two together going into the final game. Big problem is, though, all of the characters we've cared about up until this point are dead. It really seems like the tag game before the jump rope was like the finale game, because that's where all of the characters we gave a fuck about lost their life. So then after the jump rope game, the people that make it are people we just don't even know, except for like the older guy. That guy is still there, and Myung-ji. But other than those two, it's just faceless nobodies. Like, it's just NPCs around here that we have not learned about at all, other than like a couple of glimpses here and there. So it takes a lot of the oomph out of the final game because you don't care what happens to them. And it unfortunately leads to Myung-ji becoming just a psychopath. Like, they build up this character. They have him be like kind of flip-flopping, going in a lot of different directions. Like for a little while he wants to protect the baby, protection. He does a lot of things. He even like sides with Ji-hun against the other group in like the final game, which is the Squid game, but in the sky. So he's like pushing people off, then betrays them in order to team with Yeon-hee and protect that baby together. And then he just becomes a psychopath. Like going into the final part, after everything goes tits up, he just becomes a raving lunatic. And that's it. And like that's fine because they did kind of plant a couple of breadcrumbs throughout that kind of leads you to believe that could happen. Like he is just all about the money and all of it's been fake. That like I don't have the biggest issue there, but the big issue arises in that final game where again you don't care about the characters, but also like he was so logical and like so like calculating, and then all of a sudden Myung-ji just starts killing people on the second to last platform, knowing full well they need to kill someone on the last one in order to end the game. Why is he killing them on that platform? He could have just waited till the final one for that betrayal and gone from there. Well, not for the betrayal, but for like the, fucking piling up corpses. The big twist on that one, though, was one of the guys who they had beat up in order to drag to the final platform to just be like a easy sacrificial lamb. Well, that guy says, fuck you, literally just dives off the platform, killing himself, giving the big middle fingers to Myung-ji, like, I will not be your lunchbox, as they called him. So then that's when it becomes Ji-hun versus Myung-ji, and he just becomes just a full-blown psychopath, which is very, I don't know, it feels like kind of a cop-out. Like, it made you want to just root for Ji-hun, like, oh, now it makes sense why he's about to kill this guy. But then another big problem arises where they don't hit the button to actually start the game, and he ends up killing him, so then it doesn't count, so then Ji-hun has to sacrifice himself so the baby wins. I like the idea of it. I like the theme of it, how the baby is like hope in the, the midst of despair, and how Ji-hun, by sacrificing himself so the baby wins, beats the Squid game, like full stop, he beats In-ho, like the puppet master, he wins by doing that. But it also was highly unnecessary if they had just at any moment across their scuffle decided to hit that button. I don't know why they didn't. And there was also a really silly scene, like the way that Myung-ji actually dies is they both fall off the platform, and Ji-hun's like holding on to him with one hand, the actual action movie cliche, that big trope, and then he falls. Just underwhelming. Like, it's just underwhelming. Again, that whole thing was played without people we cared about in the first place anyway. I think it was a huge misstep. The most important game was the hide-and-seek tag one. That was the season's peak, and then from there it went into just fucking messy, very unsatisfying territory. But I'll get a couple more positives out there. I thought No-Kule's storyline was good. That was actually pretty satisfying, where she squares off against one of the big bads there, and she's trying to protect that guy, player 246, that she knew because of his daughter who was sick. And it really strikes a chord in her and reignites that feeling of hope that she used to have with her own family. So then she betrays this way of life with the Squid game and does everything she can to protect them. And then, after the Ji-hun sacrifice, she was about to take her own life, but then saw, nope, hope is still there. That baby gets to live, so then she decides she will also press on and live. I thought that was handled very well. But now let's go back to another negative, because I forgot to mention this one. What was supposed to be the big climax reveal where Ji-hun learns that the guy he used to call a friend in Season 2, the guy he thought was dead, is actually the game's master. He is actually the showman. He finally takes off his mask and reveals himself to Ji-hun. And we get a little bit of In-ho's backstory, not much. It's all very shallow. We don't get to actually learn a lot about him, or a couple of other key people I thought that we'd learn more about. But like with him, we get tiddlywinks. We get to learn that he was also a player in the game. And this conversation between the two of them I thought was going to be big. It wasn't. It was actually maybe like 5 sentences total, where In-ho gives him a knife and says, the other players are conspiring to kill you in this next game, you and the baby. This is your best chance. Take this knife, go in there, kill them now, and you will win. So he gives him that knife, and then we see a flashback to where the previous game's host gave In-ho that same knife, that same choice, and In-ho went in there and he slaughtered them. He killed them. Well, Ji-hun doesn't do that, obviously, and goes through with the game, but then getting into the final game, I will say, it's not like he really did anything. He actually just sat on low power mode. He actually just sat by idle like he was just fucking glitching. He just sat on the side and let people bicker amongst each other, like just have all kinds of little arguments with each other. He did nothing. He got very lucky. That's it. And that's supposed to be like his big stand against Inho and like defying what he thought was the only right choice. But he just got really lucky that the others kept arguing so much. Which again, like it did make sense, I suppose, but it was just still a little underwhelming. It wasn't like a triumph like, take this, Inho, my way is the correct way, watch. And then he didn't prove it until the very end where he squares off against Myung-ji and then sacrifices himself. That was like the big I win, you lose moment. But that conversation I just thought was so lackluster. I thought it was just so underwhelming, unfortunately. I would have liked a lot more from that. And really everything around Inho ended up being very underwhelming. Like, we have spent so long with the detective trying to get to his brother and they don't even get to talk. They don't even have a single conversation. The best he can do is just ask why and just gets crickets. Like, that sucks. Like, that just sucks. Why did we even build towards it? I don't know. I could yap more about it, but the point is, I just felt season 3 was just so disappointing. Oh yeah, in the actual, like, last scene, you get Inho driving around in America, and he happens to see an American recruiter playing Dadachi with someone in an alleyway, thus setting up the American Squid Game spin-off. Woohoo! Yeah. Cool, I guess. Can't wait for that. Like I said, I don't think season 3 ruins Squid Game, but man, was it lackluster. It was not amazing. Not the conclusion I would have liked to see. Some good moments. Definitely some good moments. A lot of bad moments, though, too. That's really about it. So, yeah. I watched The Last of Us Season 2 finale after stream tonight, which was pretty late, so I didn't finish watching it till like 3 a.m., and I said, fiddlesticks. Whoo-wee, need to catch some Z's. I'll go ahead and do the review in the morning. Couldn't sleep, so now it's 5 a.m., and I said, well, might as well do it now. It's never any fun not being able to go to sleep, just like it wasn't any fun watching Last of Us Season 2. Like most people, I liked the first season. I thought they did a great job. Season 2, I was skeptical on them not recasting Ellie and keeping Bella Ramsey as Ellie because it's supposed to take place 5 years into the future, but obviously Bella Ramsey in real life was not going to age that much in, the 2 years it took between seasons. So in the show, Ellie still looks exactly the same, but is supposed to be 5 years older. Also, Ellie still acts exactly the same. So it really conflicts with what the character's supposed to be portrayed as here, because Ellie still looks and acts like a 14-year-old from season 1, even though she's supposed to be 19. So this was a big complaint I had that I already had mentioned earlier with, the episode with Joel's death, where Ellie just doesn't feel like she's changed. She still feels like that same kid from season 1 who's just constantly joking and extremely immature. And unfortunately, that doesn't change throughout season 2 at all. It still feels really out of place. In the game, Ellie has a lot more grit. Ellie is also smart in the game. For some reason, they made the decision for The Last of Us Season 2 to make Ellie dumb, to the point where she even says that she's stupid. Why? That just kind of betrays the character. Yeah, she's supposed to be, like, reckless and everything, but that doesn't mean that she's some, like, lobotomite. That change just didn't really make sense to me. Pretty much all of the good traits of Ellie from the game were given to Dina in the show. Dina feels like the actual main character of Season 2, whereas Ellie just feels like the quirky sidekick constantly scrambling to make a quip. Now, of course, I've seen a lot of people saying that it's all Bella Ramsey's acting's fault here for the lackluster season. And I don't really agree with that. Did Bella Ramsey knock it out of the park, a fucking grand slam, grand salami performance? No. But I don't think this material would work even if they did recast Ellie for somebody else that could embody, the grit and the intimidation that Ellie had in the game better. Like, I don't think it would change if the material didn't. Because for some reason, Ellie is written to still be like this kid that takes nothing seriously, and all the characters that interact with Ellie in this world interact with her as kind of a babysitter. Best example is Jessie, where Jessie comes and rescues her and Dina, saves the day, And then the rest of that episode and now into this episode, there's no like actual friendship between them, and in fact there really hasn't been on screen at all for the whole season, but it's so egregious here in these last two episodes where like they're not friendly, whereas in the game you get the feeling that they will do anything for each other to, keep each other safe. In the show, Jesse is literally like the babysitter here, just having to sigh and put up with Ellie's attitude and just being like this constant brat. So I don't even think that's Bella Ramsey's fault. That is the fault of the writing around this character. They were totally off the mark with what they tried to do here. It was much, much worse than the video game counterpart. And even if you haven't played the game, I just think most people will get the impression that Ellie is like this really annoying character. There just wasn't a single moment in the season where you get the sense that she is on this unstoppable quest for revenge, an insatiable appetite for vengeance, overcome with the desire to kill the people that killed Joel. It never feels that way because it just never seems like she cares that much. It feels more almost like a slice of life sometimes, as opposed to like this dark descent into revenge and the effects it has on everyone around them. The character was written to just be constantly joking, which again, I don't understand why, because in the game, yeah, Ellie, of course, is still kind of zany, but it's every minute of every scene in Season 2. Like, in between perilous, sequences, where they're trying to be quiet or, like, about to fight some infected, in between that, they're joking. In fact, sometimes in the middle of it, like in the very beginning of the season, where they're about to, like, kill one of the clicker, and they're doing like sign language back and forth, and she does like the miming that she's stabbing her neck and like blood's pouring out. Like it's always joking, which doesn't work for how serious this is supposed to be. It doesn't feel intense. It takes a lot of that like on edge, hold your breath, are they gonna make it out alive, anxiety out of it, because it's constantly broken up with Ellie making a joke or something. Or it just not being taken seriously for some reason. And I think that's the biggest detriment to the season. That and a lot of the changes they made just don't work. I actually thought some of the changes they made to the episode surrounding Joel's death were positive. As I mentioned, I think that entire sequence with the Jackson fight was great. I think that was a really good idea. I won't just regurgitate my take on that episode, but the point is, I think that was a good change, and then the majority of the changes they made going forward were huge misses and big question marks. I don't really get it. Like, the best example comes from the finale, I think, where Ellie, when pursuing Abby, she washes up on the shore and gets taken by the scars, and she's about to be gutted like a fish. And then she's not, because it gets broken up, the village is under attack, they let her go, and then she gets out of there and then goes back to get Ellie. That wasn't in the game, and it added nothing. It felt so out of the blue, just completely random. Why even have that there? That doesn't really compute in my noodle up here. Maybe it'll be something they explore in Season 3, perhaps, but as of right now, that just felt entirely out of left field and served no real purpose. Unless what they tried to get across to viewers is just how deep the indoctrination goes with the cult, because it was a little kid who kind of, passed judgment saying that she needs to be killed. The kid, gave the sign to, split her open, so maybe that's what it wanted to get across. But I don't think you needed this whole sequence here that leads to nothing. That was already kind of established earlier in the season anyway. But whatever. Point is, there was a lot of changes here that I don't think added anything, and in fact, some of them I think just take away. But I'm not speaking in absolutes, I'm not a Sith. There are a couple changes I like. As mentioned, the Jackson sequence, I thought that was a great battle, and still the best part of Season 2, I would say, was everything that happened at Jackson with that huge fight with the infected horde. But there's another change that they introduced in the finale that I thought was really smart. It's while Ellie and Jesse take refuge for a moment, hold up, and Ellie grabs a book. And that book is actually one that's near and dear to my heart. It's the monster at the end of this book, the Sesame Street book, Grover. That book is all about Grover trying to stop you from getting to the end of the book because of the monster that lies at the very end. It's horrifying, so he's, frantically trying to get you to stop. No, don't go to the end of the book. But then when you get to the end of the book, turns out the monster is Grover the whole time. I actually think that's, at least the way I read it, I think that is a very clever thing to slide in here, knowing the game. Obviously, what it's talking about is how on this path for revenge, Ellie is the monster at the end of the book and what she became. And I think that works pretty well for the game, not the show. Because the show Ellie is just not the same character from the game. Not even close, really. So I don't think it hits as hard in the show, but I think that it was a very clever nod to the game counterpart. And I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was pretty cool. I also like what they did with Isaac. I thought Isaac was pretty solid. For the brief glimpses you get of him in this show, I actually thought Isaac was very cool. So there are a couple of things that I liked. But overall, I think Season 2 is just a miss. And the biggest reason for that is because of how Ellie was written here. They, at no point, have Ellie even remotely come close to the rage that's demonstrated in the character in the game. And for the vast majority of this season, Ellie's just jubilant, full of joy, constantly happy and joking, even when the situations make no sense for that to be the emotion that Ellie has in those moments. It doesn't work. It's just she never feels angry or full of rage or anything like that, like on a destructive warpath. It never comes across, and it doesn't help that the character feels really inconsistent. It felt like they were afraid to commit to just the angry, revenge-obsessed Ellie from the game. Like in this finale alone, there is a scene that I'm pretty sure, almost 100% sure wasn't in the game. Granted, it's been a while since I've played it, where Ellie and Jesse take cover inside a garage because wolves were shooting at a Scar who was running away from them. They catch up. They then take the Scar's clothes off, drag him away, presumably to execute him. Ellie tries to go save him, and Jesse stops her. And she gets very upset about that because she wanted to save him, and that really conflicts with the selfish Ellie that they're trying to get across, and also the Ellie from the game who absolutely would not care about that and is just so consumed with revenge, she wouldn't do that or get mad about not being able to save this Scar she didn't know. And then 2 scenes later in this finale, it's when Jesse and Ellie are looking over the city. Ellie sees the Ferris wheel, connects the dots that Abby's going to be at the aquarium under the Ferris wheel, and Jesse is trying to convince her to save Tommy because they hear the gunshots. Jesse reminds her Tommy is fighting wolves. He's pinning them down, but they called for backup. Ellie then says, then he'll pin down the backup, and she ultimately chooses to go after Abby and abandons Tommy and Jesse for her quest for revenge. That happened in the game, and that was once again to solidify just how consumed she was on this quest for vengeance. But in the show, it kind of flip-flops on Ellie. Sometimes she wants to be like the good guy, helping everybody, even strangers she doesn't know, being the savior over there. And then 2 scenes later, nope, she's going to be that rage-filled revenge machine. Like, it just felt like they couldn't really commit to that Ellie from the game, and instead, they just had her be pretty inconsistent across the whole season. Also, when she's going through the aquarium with the flashlight on, that shit was kind of painful. She is behind enemy lines. She's already just gone through that island sequence. Now she's in the aquarium, yet she still has her flashlight fully blasting here, knowing full well everyone there will just try and kill her if they're alerted to her presence. And yet she's like basically throwing up a flare to where she is at all times. She's basically got the UAV out on herself by just having the flashlight going. But luckily, of course, they were in the back so they didn't see it. That was just a little silly, something I want to mention. Another thing I want to mention, though, is after Tommy and Jesse come and they get Ellie and they go back to the safe spot, there's a conversation that gets had, and I don't remember if it plays out this way in the game, but in the show, it felt really bad. It's when Ellie asked, why'd you come back? Jesse said, maybe Tommy forced me to. Ellie said something to the effect of, is that true? And Jesse said, nope. And then he says, I just thought, if I was ever in trouble, life on the line, I knew I could count on you to light a fire, burn it all down, do everything possible, move mountains, basically, to come save me. He basically says that if he was in trouble, he knows Ellie would do everything to save him. And I just thought to myself how fucking stupid that sounds after what we just watched, where Ellie, literally less than 20 minutes ago, just openly forsakes Jesse and Tommy. Tommy, who is in immediate danger, fighting against wolves in like this huge firefight. Ellie abandons both of them in order to go find Abby. So I don't know why Jesse thinks that she would do anything to save him, because there's a good chance if Ellie smelt a fart that she believed would somehow lead her closer to Abby, she would follow that like a cartoon character smelling a nice pie and forget all about Jesse entirely. So just that line, that conversation doesn't really hit when we've already watched Ellie go completely against that and abandon the people she cares about for revenge, which I do think is much more in line with the video game character for what it's worth. But since the show is very inconsistent about being that angry, rage, revenge-focused character that we know from the game, it doesn't fit. Like, it no longer works, and it feels very out of place. Anyway, though, I'll stop yapping about the show. There were moments I thought were pretty decent, but they were few and far between, unfortunately. I think it was a huge step down. I also think the season had some big pacing issues that I haven't even begun to touch on. It really wasn't great. Oh, I did want to mention, though, I actually thought Abby was pretty solid in the show. Like, I don't have any major complaints there. And even though we didn't get to see a lot of Abby's side of things whenever it would pop up actually was solid. Like, I don't know if that's maybe just because everything on the Ellie side was handled so poorly that Abby's side, by contrast, looks a lot better. I don't really know, but I really did think Abby was pretty solid in the season. And I know Season 3 is obviously going to be focusing on Abby's side entirely, so maybe that ends up being a bit better than this season, because Season 2 of Last of Us show, not amazing. That's really about it. So yeah. I still can't believe the hogwash I just watched. I thought The Weeknd would never have something as bad as The Idol under his belt when it came to acting credits. How wrong I was. His new movie with Jenna Ortega just came out, Hurry Up Tomorrow. It debuted with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a very accurate score. This film is so bad, I cannot even believe they released it. It is truly a film that is meant only for the most diehard Weeknd fans to do their absolute best to cope with and defend. Because there's no one else who's going to watch this and enjoy it, I don't think. Like, I'm not even just trying to be a Scrooge about it. This is just straight up textbook turbo ass. I wrote some notes while watching it. That's how you know it was bad. And I'd like to go over it here. There's going to be spoilers. If you can even spoil something like this. This is like spoiling a pile of dog shit. Like, there's only so much damage you could do to it and so much you could ruin about it. You know what I mean? This film wants so badly to be taken seriously. Like, trying to command the utmost respect. It tries to be artsy. It tries to be pretentious. It tries to deliver creative shots, but it can't do it. It's all so flat. So when it tries to make creative shots or be like cinematography, like try to be interesting from a cinematography standpoint, it just fails. The one shot that it uses like at least 30 times as a way of trying to be a little unique and quirky is it just spins the camera around rapidly really quick. So it'll do like a bunch of 360 hero shots of The Weeknd as he's just like staring at something, like having some kind of stunning revelation, or it'll spin really, really fast and then start blurring the screen. They do that no less than 10-15 times for some of these shots. That is their go-to bread and butter. It's not an interesting shot. It's disorienting. And it doesn't do anything. It's just fucking stupid. But that's really the whole film in a nutshell. Everything about it is stupid while trying to be deep. Anyway, enough foreplay. Let's get into it here. A lot of the film feels like it's just promotional material for The Weeknd's new music. Like, it really feels like a large chunk of this is you're just listening to a Weeknd concert, which is why I said it feels like it's just meant for Weeknd fans and nobody else. Like, they'll probably be happy just to hear the songs and then just defend the movie for that reason alone. I also like some of The Weeknd's music. You know what I don't like? Having my fucking time wasted. If I wanted to watch a Weeknd concert, I'd watch a video of it on YouTube or get tickets to go see it my fucking self. I don't want to sit here and watch a movie that's like a pseudo-intellectual take on Weeknd music. That's not fun. It really felt like it was just an advertisement for his music. So he plays himself. It is a self-insert. And Jenna Ortega plays a troubled fan. So the very first scene, outside of like the introduction, the very first scene is the Weeknd blowing a raspberry at the camera. I'm not kidding. That is actually the first scene. He just goes... And he does that for like actually 3 minutes. Now he's not staring down the pipe here of the camera. He's looking in the mirror doing this. And I understand this is a real vocal warm-up exercise doing that and just... that kind of thing. But do you know how fucking dumb that is to start this movie with that? So anyway, he then continues all of his like pre-performance rituals. He's on a tour, so he's about to do a big performance, and he does. He does a whole song, and we get to watch it. Yippee. It is the whole song we watch. And then we get his next performance, and he's really angry about this breakup, so he's leaving an emotionally charged voicemail. He wants to cancel this one because he is not in a state to perform. His voice is all kind of, cattywampus, damaged, and he doesn't want to, like, hurt it further. And he's just really down in the dumps over this breakup. His heart's broken. But his manager, he doesn't let him. He forces him to do it. So he gets himself all hyped up. He gets, alcohol in his system. He gets, ripped and roaring. Leaves another, like, yelling, angry voicemail. You bitch! You're gonna be forgotten, but I'm a fucking legend. I'm the Weeknd, damn it. And then he goes out there and he eats shit. It is a bad performance. He is off his gourd, out of his mind. And that's when he locks eyes with Jenna Ortega. Now, Jenna Ortega, we saw in a previous scene light a house on fire and then drive away. We don't know why she did that yet, but that's what we've seen, and now she's at the Weeknd concert. They lock eyes, and they immediately have a spark, a connection. He then storms off the stage because he's just not ready to perform. He's all pissed off at his manager, so he's evacuating. Jenna Ortega, I'm calling her by her actual name because I don't even know what her character's name is in this movie. I don't think they said it. I think he maybe said something that sounded like Annie once, so maybe that's it. I also don't feel like looking it up either. It's just, if you can't even tell me a character's name and make it stick, then something has already gone awry. So Jenna hops the railing and then finds him backstage. They bump into each other, and then he says, "Do you want to come with me?" She says yes, and then they go on a date. They play air hockey and then ride scooters and then go back to his hotel together. It is a really uncomfortable series of scenes because, like, in the car, he's already crying. I shit you not, I feel like The Weeknd made this film just to prove he can cry on camera, because in every scene he is tearing up and crying. Like, I can't think of a scene that went by that didn't have him with tears in his fucking eyes, eating some French fries. Like, it is unbelievable how many times he is crying. So he's even crying, like, on this date, and then they eventually go back to his hotel room, and he plays her a song, an unreleased track. He's like, "I want to show you this." So he plays a song, and I wrote down some of the lyrics here, at least the ones that I could hear. It goes, "Trying to fill this hole my father left so no one else abandons me. My mother." I missed some lyrics here or something, but it goes like, "Mama, I'm sorry." It says it again, like, "Mama, I'm sorry. I hope that I find what I'm looking for." And he plays this whole fucking song, by the way. This movie has such a problem of just dragging these scenes out to an agonizingly long duration that it is so uncomfortable. Like, he plays like a full fucking 4-minute song for her, and then she's tearing up about it too. Like, God. Like, you can get the point across with only like a minute, maybe. You don't need to play the entire discography. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so unnecessarily long. So she starts crying, and then she's trauma dumping about how this song really touched her and like how she can relate to it so strongly because her dad also wasn't there for her and her mother was struggling. So this connection is so powerful. It's such a strong bond. They fuck. And it's a really artsy sex scene. Like, you don't actually see sex, but you see like shapes that resemble something sexual, maybe. I don't know. It's a series of stupid shots. It's like liquid silk moving around. And like, it honestly looked like bowling balls for a little minute there on screen, just like going by. Like, it's a weird scene. But they have sex. And then the next morning, the Weeknd's pretty callous towards her. He's talking about how he needs to go to the next stop on his tour, and she's like, well, take me with you. I want to go to Australia, which is where the next one is. And he's like, no. This was fun, but bye-bye. Godspeed. Good to see you. This was a great time. I don't want anything more with this. And now, Jenna Ortega has already received a call from her mother, who is very upset about her burning down the house. And she's already, upset because of that. And then the Weeknd's saying these things, and it hurts her. So she's like, well, you said you needed me last night. You don't ever want me to leave, and now you're leaving. This is ridiculous. And this is what has led to that viral clip that I know is floating around from this film, where the Weeknd, in the most unenthusiastic tone ever, goes, shut the fuck up. God, oh my God, shut the fuck up. It's become like a viral clip because he has this rant in the film where it actually sounds like the first take, like the actual line reading that they just said, that's good enough. It is terrible. It is some of the worst acting you'll see on the big screen. I'm shocked that it is in here. So he's doing this rant about how ridiculous she's being, and she needs to just keep her mouth shut. This is stupid. We don't even know each other. Maybe I'll call you, but who cares? Boo-hoo. Oh, now you're all upset. So he's just being a douchebag. And he literally sounds the same way I sound when I get a bad teammate in Marvel Rivals, where I'm a little annoyed. And this is supposed to be a really emotional scene, but it is comical with how it's delivered. So then, after he has this whole rant at her, he then turns his back to leave, and she hits him in the back of the head and knocks him out. It's literally out of Courage the Cowardly Dog when Muriel hits Eustace with a fucking frying pan or something. So she now assaults him, knocks him out, and then ties him to the bed. While he's in this ethereal state after getting a concussion, he goes to hell. So he's all alone in this version of the hotel, and he's now wandering these catacombs or this big dark empty tunnel, and then he sees a woman who's crouched, and then she goes boo, and it's a big jump scare moment, and it scares the Weeknd. And it's supposed to startle the audience, and now it becomes a pseudo-horror film. Oh my God, it's so dumb. I can't express to you how stupid it is. It really is just, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? And then he goes to a fire, and then there's a kid there. I'm assuming it's all supposed to be very metaphorical and full of symbolism. I'll get into a take I've seen on the film that I think might be what they were going for, but absolutely failed to deliver. But I'll get to that in a moment. But after he awakes from that nightmare, he's tied to the bed, and Jenna Ortega wants him to be honest about what his music means. He's fucked so many girls, but they're just numbers to him, except for this one girl that was really special. So then what she does, this is actually pivotal to the film, and it goes on for probably close to 25 minutes. It's the major chunk of the runtime. She goes through 3 of his songs. One of them is Blinded by the Light. And she just dances to the songs and then gives a genius lyric breakdown of what it means. So she tries to soul read him. Blinded by the Light is your most honest song. It's a very strong sense, or a very strong look into what you feel. And it's about this one girl who wasn't just a number to you, she was special, but you hurt her. You were toxic to her, and she broke your heart, and now it's breaking you, and you're writing about it in the song, and I can feel it in your music. And she's just now be honest with me, and I'll untie you, I'll let you go. You're toxic, right? And he doesn't play ball with it, but he starts crying. And she's like, okay, another song then. She does the same thing. She dances to it for a while. The fucking whole song plays for the most part. It is the majority of the song plays. It is so unnecessary. So she's dancing to it, and she breaks down the lyrics again, no, it's time to be honest. Maybe you're the toxic person. She's not toxic, right? So she just keeps berating him and grilling him, going on and on about this. And during this sequence, 3 people left the theater. Over the course of this maybe 10-minute chunk while she was doing a couple of the songs, 3 separate people walked out of the movie. It's just not a good film. There is nothing here to enjoy. I just wanted to make mention of that. So she continues to go through all of that, and then as she's piercing, and it seems like he's about to start being honest with her. His manager shows up. He's banging on the door. He tracked the phone. He knows he's there. And Jenna answers the phone, or answers the door, tries to shoo him away, but he kicks the door in. Then the two get into a big, scuffle, and it ends with her stabbing him in the neck, killing him. And then the Weeknd, of course, sees the dead body, and she's covered in blood. So his manager's dead. She killed his manager, and now she's crying again. And the Weeknd's been crying like this whole time, so this is nothing new, but he's also crying. She starts pouring gasoline on him, like we saw in the first scene where she poured gasoline on the house. Now she's doing that to him, and then she's holding the lighter over him, about to light him on fire, killing him. Well, he's closes his eyes, and he's accepting his fate. He's coming to terms with everything, and he breaks out into a song. He breaks out into the I'm Sorry song. It's a song all about apologizing and trying to be honest. I wrote down a couple of the lyrics here as well. He keeps repeating, "Mama, I'm sorry. Mama, I'm sorry. Now I'll burn for the way I treated you," or something. I didn't write them down verbatim, but it was the most cringe, almost fanfic level garbage. He breaks out into this song. And this song is, it's longer than Freebird. It goes for so long. Sitting there covered in gasoline with her with a lighter over him. He's singing for so long, and it moves her so much, she decides not to light him on fire. She unties him. She lights the bed on fire, lights the whole apartment on fire. The Weeknd walks out. We don't see Jenna Ortega again. He walks out, and then he's looking at himself in the mirror as he exits the hallway. And he's getting ready for his next performance. The end. Pretty abrupt ending. Roll credits. It sucks. It really sucks. Now, I believe there's supposed to be a deeper message with all of this. I don't think it lands, and I have seen a theory that talks about it that I think is probably the closest we'll get. Jenna Ortega's character, most likely, I would think after watching this, was not a real person. I think it was a manifestation of the Weeknd's feelings about himself with the way that the relationship that actually meant something to him ended. And now Jenna Ortega is here trying to get through to him that he was the reason that the only good thing in his life, the only positive person and positive relationship that he's ever let in, is now gone. It was him being toxic, and Jenna Ortega was meant to be that force to get it through to him. But she wasn't a real character or anything, and what happened in that hotel room wasn't real, so the burning of it was symbolic of him burning it to the ground and moving forward. I think that's probably right, but I also think there's an equal chance that it's not even fucking close, and this film is just surface level. Everything you see is what you get. I think there's a very real chance of that being it too. I feel like this could just be true cope, where people have now written something that can almost make sense in the context of this messy dog shit film. And if I was involved with the writing of this, I would latch on to this theory, because it does fit to a certain extent. There are some inconsistencies and some plot holes if this actually is what they were going for, but it does kind of still fit, and it makes it a little more, pinky out, artsy. But it doesn't make the movie any better, even if that is what it's actually supposed to mean and represent. It's still a bad film. There is still nothing to like about the film, and no reason to care about the Weeknd in the first place in this movie. He's not even really a character. He is actually just performing the vast majority of this movie. He's really not doing anything or getting fleshed out or giving you any reason to get invested in anything you're watching. It's just a waste of time. It is so flat. So I am not surprised this film is getting slammed. It sucks. It is easily the worst film of the year right now. So yeah, I just want to talk about it a bit. That's it. So yeah. I watched a movie called The Woman in the Yard. I was convinced that this was the lowest we could possibly sink for horror films by the title alone. But it's a Blumhouse film, which means it's going to make money no matter what. And I went yesterday, and it was a sold-out theater, basically. I had to sit in the front row. Do you understand how mad I was? I was sitting there steaming. I have had no problems for any release over the last 6 months, no matter how big. Yet somehow the fucking Woman in the Yard at 10:30 p.m., I can't get out of the front row loony bin. I'm just sitting there breaking my neck staring straight up at it like I'm trying to catch a fucking golden shower with my mouth open. For the Woman in the Yard, I was livid. My eggs were scrambled. I sat there with my arms crossed pouting by the time the movie started. Which, it's not the movie's fault. I mean, good for the Woman in the Yard. It's putting asses in seats somehow. That shit is selling tons and tons. I bet it's gonna make a fucking fortune off of like a $12 million budget or something, I imagine. Because Blumhouse, all they do is like really low budget horror films, so everything is a profit. I've said that is the smartest model, and I don't know why more Hollywood studios don't follow that model. They only ever make money. No matter how catastrophic or how boring, lazy, or generic it is, you make a low-budget horror film, you're going 3x on your budget plus marketing. So I have no doubt The Woman in the Yard is going to follow suit, especially considering the turnout I saw for it yesterday, which I am still stunned by. This had more movement than the Halo 3 midnight launch. I don't know what people are seeing in the trailer for The Woman in the Yard that makes them think it's going to be good. It's not. I thought at best it would be fun bad. It's not. It's just boring. It's not even bad, per se. It's not like a horrible film. It's not terrible, but it's not good. So it doesn't get to have the luxury of being enjoyably stinky. It just is mediocre, which I think is the ultimate sin. Because again, you can be bad and charming and memorable and enjoyable, or you can just be good. But if you're neither, you go right down in purgatory and you're forgettable and boring, and I feel like I wasted my time watching it. I want to give you my review, though. As the title would indicate, there is a woman in the yard, almost immediately. They name drop the title within the first 10 minutes. So the story is about a family that's going through a loss. The mother and father were in a car accident which claimed the life of the husband. However, the mother survived and is overcome with a lot of trauma, and the family still is, of course, feeling the loss of the father. It's only been a couple of weeks since that accident, and when they were downstairs eating, one of the kids, named Taylor, said, "Hey Mom, there's a woman in the yard." So the mother goes and checks, and sure enough, there's a fucking woman in the yard. So, as you've seen in the trailer, it's a woman sitting in a chair in the yard. So, the title did not lie. It is not false advertising. You get what you pay for right away. You get a woman in the yard, and she is posting up. She is slabbed up in the middle of the yard, and it's odd because she's dressed like it's like morning attire. It's very weird and concerning. So the mother goes and checks, and of course the mother is going through a rough time, and she's taking all of her anger and frustration out on her kids. She is miserable. And she goes out. She still has an injured leg from the car accident, so she's on crutches, and she goes out. So she says, "Hey, why are you sitting in the yard, lady?" And this leads to a short and odd conversation between the two of them, with the woman in the yard eventually revealing some blood in her hands. And that's when the mom goes, "Jeepers, this is a threat now. This woman in the yard is dangerous," so she goes back inside, locks all the doors, and it turns out her chickens have been slaughtered by the woman in the yard. So, do you care about spoilers? My guess is probably not. I'm going to get into spoilers so I can tell you why I think the movie's pretty fucking boring. So you have been warned. I'm going to get into spoilers for The Woman in the Yard. But before I do that, I will say there are a couple of things I actually think are pretty solid about the film. There are some really good shots, and I do mean that. There are some actually good shots in here that I did not expect from The Woman in the Yard. They had really cool shots, especially when it came to a certain sequence that involved glass, and the powers of the woman in the yard, I think, look cool and are at least something different than you usually see in horror films, and got pretty creative with it. I also think the acting was good, particularly from the mother. So, it's all the good stuff out of the way. Now, into the spoilers. This movie is the epitome of that SpongeBob meme. He's just standing there menacingly. That is the whole film. There is nothing that happens outside of the family bickering. The mother is terrible to her kids. She is going through some horrible things, and she is taking it out on her family. The entire, I'd say 70% of the film is focused on her being mean to her kids, and one of her kids, Taylor, kind of talking back and being like, "Mom, you're not acting like yourself." And the mom's throwing glass on the floor, even throws something at her kids. And then that's the bulk of the film. Meanwhile, they'll just keep looking out the window and noticing the woman in the yard is getting closer. So that's it. There's not really scares. There's just occasional loud noises, but no scares. Eventually, as the woman in the yard gets closer, the kid, Taylor, decides to take matters into his own hands because his mother is completely incapable of protecting them at all. She has, no survival instincts. So, the power has been off all day, so they haven't been able to, call for help. The mother's phone is not charged, so they also can't call for help there. The Jeep battery is dead, so they can't go and, scram and get out of there. But Taylor is constantly coming up with other solutions. Okay, so the power's not working, we can't call for help. Well, what if we just start running to the neighbors to call for help to get this woman in the yard out of here because she's scaring us? And she's like, no, you can't do that. And it's like, well, why the fuck not? She's just sitting in the yard. We've established she's not going anywhere. This kid could easily run to the neighbors, which he says he can do. He even said I could drive the car there. She's like, no, you don't drive the car. And it turns out the car is dead. But, he's the only one offering solutions. He's like, okay, I'm going to get Dad's gun and I'll shoot her. She's like, no, you will not do that. And it's like, what the fuck? He's the only one with any sense in the whole film. Now, of course, I think that's the point because, big spoiler here, the whole film is about the mother and what she's gone through with the trauma after losing her husband in a car accident that she feels she is responsible for. That's the big twist. So the woman in the yard mentioned during their conversation she had been summoned by the mother. The mother's confused on what it meant. And then we get to the last half of this film. So now we see the woman in the yard. She's standing up from her chair. Now she's using her powers, and her powers are shadow manipulation. And there's some cool shots with this, where she has, her arm as a shadow reaching up and she hits a wind chime for a scare. Or she's using her shadows in the house to pick up things and throw them around, which I think is the most cliche shit ever. I am so tired of that fucking horror movie trope where things just move around ooh, spooky, moving fucking plates and shit. But at least using the shadow powers to do it was cool looking. It really reminded me of Courage the Cowardly Dog with that episode where, the shadows fight each other. I love that. I love Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I can always find ways of tying it into movies I watch because Courage just had so much good shit to it. So it did remind me of that. But the shadows were a cool idea, and there was some creativity there where they started closing blinds in order to take away shadows so she couldn't use it. It was good ideas that really feel worthless in a movie like this, unfortunately. So anyway, after she starts demonstrating her powers and they start countering it by getting rid of the shadows, it then goes into, a totally separate movie after they end up in the attic. After they've run away from the shadows and they're up in the attic. Where it just becomes a fucking totally different movie. It gets so trippy and surreal. It has, time-altering elements where the mother, she starts going to, the past where her husband is there and we get to, see that, and it's a happily ever after thing, but it turns out it's the mirror dimension, so everything's flipped. Then she comes back to reality, but now she's the woman in the yard, so she's sitting in the chair. So now we're seeing the movie play out in front of her as the woman in the chair from her perspective. These are cool ideas and they look cool, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the film that's just been established. It just comes out of nowhere. It seems like what happened is they had the woman in the yard and they wanted to be this really formulaic, throwaway, dog shit horror film. And then the director's like, this sucks. I really want to try something. They're like, okay, as long as we just get some tickets, some asses and seats, just put it to the end of the movie. Who cares? So he decided to get experimental. And I appreciate what he tried to do, but I just don't think it works for the movie. What ends up happening is the woman in the yard is there because the mother wants to end her own life. She's going through so much grief and she feels like her kids are going to be so much better off without her. So the woman in the yard is there to help her do that. And that's where you get to the ending of the film where she has a gun to her head and the woman in the yard's helping her pull the trigger to end her own life. And then she doesn't. She walks away, her kids come back, and it's happily ever after. But then it turns to one of the pictures and her name, Ramona, is backwards. Thus, the implication is she did take her own life and now she's in the mirror dimension of the happily ever after that's not real. It's a very bleak ending and it takes a lot of fucking balls to do that. So ultimately the message of the movie is she couldn't move on from her grief, thought her kids would be better off without her, so she shoots herself in the head. It's a pretty crazy message to send, really. And I can at least appreciate it tried to do something at the end here, but it takes the last 15 minutes and just crams so much shit all at once. Tons of different ideas, different imagery, all overloading you in 10 minutes. It just doesn't mesh with the rest of the movie. So, overall, Woman in the Yard is not a good movie, but it's also not a terrible film either. I really think it's just a boring film at the end of the day. That had some good ideas, it had some clever moments, it had some good acting, but it didn't really do anything. And it's hardly even a horror film in the first place. So yeah, overall, not a great movie. I just wanted to give you the little review on it. That's about it. There's a lot you could say about this film, but one thing that you can never criticize it for is that it lied to you. There was a fucking woman in that yard for over an hour doing nothing. That's pretty cool. That's about it. See ya.
Hello down there. I just finished watching the Snow White live-action remake, and now I'm leaving the parking lot on my way home. I wasn't going to see it initially because I'm beyond tired of live-action remakes. I don't like them. I do not like green eggs and ham. And the only reason I decided to go see this one is because somehow there was a lot of hype for it, with people saying it's one of the best live-action remakes ever made. Now that I've finished it, I can say I disagree. I apologize for the wacky camera angle here that looks like it's filming a dick pic, but I wanted to just give you my raw thoughts immediately after seeing it. I didn't really like it. I know there was a lot of controversy with the movie. Don't really know what it all was. I didn't pay too much attention. I know the star Rachel Zegler apparently had like some bad interviews or something, and Gal Gadot, people say, is like the worst actress of our generation. Couldn't tell you. All I know is I didn't like the movie. So setting aside the controversy with it, was the film good in its own right? Not to me, it wasn't. But I'm also not the target demographic anymore. I'm a fucking 30-year-old greaseball. The Snow White remake, it shares a little bit in common with the original, but it feels like it wanted to carve its own path. It's a little bit longer than the original, so it adds a little bit more. Not a ton, but it adds things that nobody gives a fuck about. And it really feels like there was two different visions for the film that ended up clashing. So they have the 7 dwarves, but they also have 7 bandits, which I don't get the point of. The only bandit that matters is the main one, Jonathan. Every other bandit, I don't think they even had a name. There was like one scene where they said one of their names, but you don't know who the fuck they're talking about because they have never mentioned any of them by name. I don't know why they're here. It feels like they're the remnants of what the original direction was for this remake. It feels like, at least that's my little fucking tinfoil condom conspiracy theory. It feels like the 7 bandits were supposed to replace the dwarves, but then they decided not to do that. So now you have the 7 bandits and the 7 dwarves, and it just doesn't mesh well at all. Really, most of the movie I don't think meshes super well. There's a lot of new songs in it that I didn't recognize from the original, and I thought they blew ass. I wasn't a fan. But there was a couple songs that I recognized from the original, and they were fine. Those were kind of fun. Like the classic Hi Ho. That was kind of sweet. Truthfully, I just don't have a whole lot to say about the movie, because it is absolutely just not for me. Also, I feel like I'm shouting at the phone screen right now, like I got headphones on. But, you know, it is what it is. It's just, I really feel like I'm at this point shaking my fist at the clouds. I don't see why you'd ever choose to watch this over the original. Like, it's not a bad movie, really. Like, it's not even terrible. I think there's things about it that don't really work for me personally. Like, but it's not for me. I'm not a 6-year-old. But, like, when I'm watching this and remembering the original, like the poison apple in the original, for example, big deal. Like an actual huge piece of the original. In this one, it's nothing. It is beyond nothing. So, like, the evil... So when Snow White gets the poison apple by Gal Gadot, she takes a bite and then she gets the sleeping death. Well, she only stays sleeping dead for like 10 minutes. It was a sleeping snooze. Like, she actually just took a nap because she was only in that state for 2 scenes, and then Jonathan came up and gave her a kiss. And then she was immediately freed from it. So like there's never, like it doesn't even feel like there's ever anything at stake. It doesn't even feel like serious. It just, it's crazy to say this, but it feels like it moves so fucking fast despite being longer than the original, and yet offers less reasons to get invested, if that makes sense. Like, I shit you not, she gets the fucking poison apple, she falls asleep with Gal Gadot laying down all the evil stuff she's done. The dwarves come up and they're like, oh, jinkies. So then they hold like a fucking Viking burial, kind of. They put her on a rock, and they're like lamenting that she's shed the mortal coil. And like, it switches to the other scene with Jonathan, who breaks out of the castle, and then he immediately shows up, and they're still there, like over her body, her corpse. So I think it's really only been like 5 minutes. They haven't even begun the funeral, and Jonathan shows up, kisses her, and she's fine. So like, it never really feels like anything's a big deal. So you're kind of just there to enjoy the music more so than anything, which I wasn't liking. And to be honest, while it's just me and you here, I walked out of the movie. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, because I never walk out of movies. And this movie, like I said, isn't even like the worst movie I've ever seen or anything. It's not even the worst live action remake I've seen. But I walked out with like the last 15 minutes because I was just so fucking bored. I really was just really in a trance, like a fugue state, and I was ready to leave. So maybe the ending really saves it. Maybe the ending ties it all together with an absolute masterpiece, but I doubt it. Now, as someone who starred in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, I feel qualified to opine on acting performances, and I would say it was fine overall. Like, I actually think Rachel Zegler did a good job as Snow White. Like, she didn't do anything like crazy. It wasn't, some kind of Oscar-worthy performance, but I thought it was really just fine. Gal Gadot, on the other hand, I do not think was the right choice for this role. It feels like she wanted to go like over the top and like ham it up, but was a little reserved. Like, didn't really commit to going crazy with it. And then it just kind of peters in this really bad purgatory of just being flat. Like, she's never over the top enough that it becomes charming and like Disney villain-like, but it's also not played seriously enough to the point where you like take her seriously, so she's just kind of dull. And everyone else around them, they don't have a big enough role to play for me to give a fuck to even talk about their performances. I guess, except for maybe Jonathan. But Jonathan, he just had to be in love with Snow White immediately, and that's kind of it. So he didn't really get a whole lot to do besides that. Anyway, though, that's kind of my review of Snow White live action 2025. I didn't like it very much, but I imagine if you're 6 years old or you just really like Disney live action remakes, you'll probably be pretty satisfied with the film, I think, most likely. Yeah, that's really about it. I'm driving right now, and I don't like to take my eyes off the road, so when I get to the next red light, I'll stop the recording. Hopefully you're having a good day. My day's really alright. Haven't done too much today except go see that movie. I guess I don't regret seeing it. I guess it was worth giving it a try. And now I know for sure. Probably done with live action remakes, you know what I mean?
Sometimes I like to cover topics that I'm confident 90% of the planet has never even heard of, and I know 100% of the planet does not care about. So buckle in. Buckle your seatbelt. This is going to be a bit of a wild ride for us, because I find this to be such an interesting topic. It's about a movie that was not only so catastrophic and a box office disaster, but it was so bad that a beloved director who's directed some hits like Die Hard, Predator, Hunt for Red October, Last Action Hero, and then from the deepest, stinkiest part of his bowels, he pooped out something so blasphemous and unholy that it completely ruined his career, and he has not had a movie since. Kind of. He had like one other movie after this came out, but it was already finished at the time from what I understand. But not only was it so bad that he has basically been excommunicated from Hollywood, There was so much like espionage and conspiracy shit behind the scenes on the production of this that he also spent a whole year in jail. This is the story of RollarBall 2002. Show of hands. How many of you have heard of or, God forbid, seen RollarBall 2002? Put your hand down. I know you're lying. Don't you ever try to fib to me again. Liars go to hell. 2002 RollarBall is a film I watched growing up that I thought was just the bee's knees. I thought this shit slapped. It's the remake of a 1975 film, which is based on a book. And I thought it was amazing when I was a kid. And when I was talking about it on stream, I was shocked to learn that most people didn't share that sentiment. It has a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes, with many considering it the worst remake ever made. And for its time in the early 2000s was one of the most catastrophic flops. This was a bigger flop than My Meat Onto Your Mother's Chin. This is a film that does have a bit of a sour legacy. And last night I decided to rewatch it for the first time in 2 decades. Holy shit, this movie is incredibly bad. So before getting into how this landed the director in jail, let's go ahead and give you a review of the film. Now, what I wanted to do is like play you clips from RollarBall and talk about it and joke about it, kind of like how Danny Gonzalez does it. But the last time I tried this formula, I ended up getting a strike on my channel from the Max Steel movie. So I don't know how Danny Gonzalez gets away with it. Maybe he's made a deal with the devil. I haven't a clue, but I'm not going to risk it again. So instead, I'm just going to talk to you about RollarBall 2002. Now, first and foremost, I don't think it's a fun, bad movie. It's kind of a slog. I think the intro, like the first 20-ish minutes, is charming. Like, actually charming. Because it's this perfect encapsulation of the late 90s, early 2000s extreme era attitude. You know, fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin beating Vince McMahon in the hospital with a bedpan. You know, The Undertaker throwing Mankind McFoley off the top of Hell in a Cell. It takes that and it folds it into this universe where there's an extreme new sport called rollerball. And I promise you, rollerball is the worst sport any human being is capable of cooking up. It's like an affront to imagination entirely. It is insulting. This is a sport made by someone that has never watched a sport in their life. So, to sum it up, it's like this tiny mini golf-sized arena where you have 2 people on motorcycles, 1 for each team, and then everyone else on rollerblades, and like a steel ball gets shot through, and you have to pick up the ball, and you have to do like 2 figure eights, and then you have to jump up onto the rabbit hole, they call it, which is basically just a high diving board. So you jump up onto the rabbit hole, and then you drop down, and then once you do that and complete that lap, then you are eligible to score the rollerball, which you score by taking it, and there's a giant metal saucer, like a giant metal colander, and you take it and you throw it at it. And keep in mind, the size of the arena is like the size of my room. And the extreme nature is there's motorcycles. I shit you not. That's the only thing that makes it extreme. And of course you can like bump and hit people. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of roller derby before. It kind of borrows a lot of that DNA, but then makes it 20 times as lame. So you have these men and women on rollerblades and on these motorcycles, and the whole thing is you do this and you do that to try and prevent them from doing 2 laps and then doing this. By far, the worst part of this movie is having to watch them play that sport. It's about as extreme as me plugging my grandfather's nose when he was sleeping and then run away when he wakes up angry. It sucks, and it takes up such a large percentage of this film. It deserves the 3% for that alone. And it tries so hard to be cool and edgy, so it's got like the rock music. They have like a band on, like, it built into the sport too. And they'll play like the Rob Zombie. There's a Slipknot performance in there. Pink's in here too. And it's just so lame. And they also try and just like put titties in here. So there's just scenes of boobies out, like a bunch of breasts sometimes for no reason. But they even try and get quirky with the perkies. So they'll have like these breasts in like these almost futuristic sci-fi outfits. But if it's sci-fi written by like the weirdo gooner. So like one of the scenes, all the women have like this like military uniform on, but the nipple and areolas are cut out of it. So you just see like their nipples and areolas in the uniform for some reason. It's odd. The whole movie, it really feels like it's made by the most uncool person ever trying to figure out what it means to be cool and they just keep fishing around in the dark, not finding it. I was just surprised I didn't see more trench coats. I saw tons of sunglasses, just not nearly as many trench coats as I was expecting. But anyway, most of the film you're watching rollerball matches, which super fucking suck. You might as well just be watching like an ant farm. It's terrible, and it's filmed horribly. It's like 55 cuts just watching Jonathan Cross do this on his roller skates. It's, oh man, it is miserable. So the plot is about rollerball is the biggest sport in the world right now. It's making millions of dollars, and the whole thing is the elites of rollerball want to keep people hooked on gambling with it. That's how they're making all of their money, is through everyone gambling on rollerball. So they have to keep people's interest hooked. And the way they do that is by basically starting to purposefully rig the game to have people getting injured, to increase the stakes. Like the more blood, the better kind of thing. And Jonathan Cross and his team, they catch wind of this, and they don't like being killed. They don't like being treated like, you know, not athletes, but instead just fodder for the ratings. Which conceptually is a decent idea, and I imagine in the book that concept is explored pretty well. It is not here at all. Also, the main bad guy looks like Nosferatu. Now, I bet you're wondering, what does this movie do when it's not just showing you rollerball matches? And the answer is nothing. So, Jonathan Cross is having a fling with the motorcyclist on his team. What is her name? I think it's Black Widow? Maybe? I don't remember. But they're like in love with each other, but they're keeping it under wraps because Jonathan Cross is the face of rollerball. He is the Tom Brady of rollerball, and Nosferatu is basically rigging it so all of his team keeps getting hurt to kind of force him to be like the angriest man in the sport, so people keep getting hooked. Like the superstar, he's getting mad and now he's getting even more violent type thing. Now when they're not showing you the rollerball stuff, it's Jonathan, Black Widow, and then LL Cool J's character. They're upset about, you know, like all of their teammates getting injured because, like, in one of them, the opposing team was instructed by Nosferatu and the bad guys to hit one of their teammates with the rollerball, and so they blast him in the jaw, and you're like, ooh! So they blast him in the jaw, and then they start to piece it together. So then, when they're not playing rollerball, they're trying to figure out, how do we get out of this? They never figure it out. Eventually, LL Cool J and Jonathan Cross try and make it across the border. They don't make it. LL Cool J gets sniped and just dies on the spot. In probably the most anticlimactic death I have ever seen in a film. Because he was, like, in a lot of the scenes, because LL Cool J was a huge character here. And when he tries to make it to the border and Jonathan Cross is watching, Nosferatu just has his henchman snipe him. He just goes, all right, now shoot him. So he shoots him, he falls off the bike, and he's dead. They don't even have Jonathan Cross ever, like, mention him again. He is immediately forgotten entirely. There are so many scenes I would like to show you so we can laugh about it together, but like I said, I don't want to risk getting a strike for fucking Rollerball 2002. So instead, I'll just fast forward this review here because who gives a fuck? The movie ends with Jonathan in his final match where they decided Jonathan knows too much, he already tried to run, let's give him his retirement match, where they're basically just going to have the other team kill him. So they like sharpen their sticks, they have like these little scoopers, like these pooper scoopers for the ball. I think they're for the ball. They actually never utilize them except for the final scene where they have these giant fucking Q-tips that are sharp. So they start like slashing with it and Jonathan's bleeding. Jonathan starts just fighting them. The crowd's cheering, Jonathan! Jonathan! Do it! Jonathan! So he's fighting the other team. And then eventually he like overcomes the big roided out bad guy. Basically this world's Bane. He beats in like this 1v1 fist fight. And then even the other team starts to rebel with Jonathan. So they all fight back against Nosferatu and the bad guys. And Jonathan grabs the rollerball and he does a flying drop kick through the glass, hitting Nosferatu. And then he throws the rollerball at one of the guys with a gun. He takes him out and then he goes and delivers the 1-2 buckle my shoe knuckle sandwich to the other guy, taking him out. And then he goes and he kills Nosferatu. And then one of the other guys that was Nosferatu's right hand is like, when you kill a tyrant, you got to make sure to do a deal with his successor. That's me. So he pulls out his gun and Jonathan says, I've got more work to do. So then he shoots him with a shotgun, killing him. Roll credits. That's how it ends. Pretty exhilarating stuff. Now, the movie's bad. Yes. Is it a 3% bad? Yes. Did it deserve its huge flop? Yes. Now let's move on to the most interesting part about this story. How did the director John McTiernan land himself in jail for this? And in order to tell that story, I need to set the stage a bit, because the history of this RollerBall remake actually has a pretty tumultuous past. So initially the remake script focused on the thematic ideas of the original and fleshing them out more and going deeper on it. However, John McTiernan didn't like that idea. He had titties on the mind. He said, nope, we're throwing this out, we need more melons. So McTiernan threw out that other script, wiped his whole asshole with it, and instead opted for a script that was far more straightforward and much more about mindless action and being sexy. That was like the big thing. And when they did it for test screenings, it was not received very well. So in a panic, they recut the movie, they even redid the whole ending, and they Frankenstein together this PG-13 cut, which I'm really surprised about, because what I watched on Amazon could not have been PG-13. There were a lot of honkers out. I feel like maybe this version on Amazon is the original R-rated version, and what hit theaters was PG-13. I don't know. I haven't even bothered to look at that, because who gives a fuck? But regardless, what happened is they did redo a lot of it for a PG-13 rating. And it bombed. Everybody hated it. For obvious reasons. It's not a good movie at all. So with all of this turmoil internally, there was a big disagreement between the director, John McTiernan, and the producer, Charles Roven, about where this vision goes. And McTiernan became convinced that Roven was making an effort to sabotage his vision, so he turned to an infamous Hollywood fixer, which I guess is like, I don't know, the Pinkertons for Hollywood? I guess like a fucking assassin or something, named Anthony Pellicano, to investigate Roven, to, I guess, confirm his conspiracy that Roven was actively working against him. So Anthony Pellicano wiretapped Roven. Also, he was apparently arrested by the FBI for countless guns and explosives in his office. According to the court, McTiernan hoped he would discover dirt on Roven, especially him speaking negatively about studio execs. When Roven caught wind of the scheme and retained an attorney to investigate, McTiernan repeatedly misled or outright lied to authorities during various investigations, depositions, and hearings, and the repeated behavior shaped him into someone that the court deemed unwilling to take the matter seriously, and after multiple appeals and extensions over a period of 7 years, the director was sentenced to 1 year in federal prison. He served most of the time in the facility, but was eventually granted house arrest for the final month. And since RollerBall, he's only had one movie come out called Basic, which I believe he had already done before going to jail for the RollerBall espionage. Meanwhile, Charles Roven is wiggling his finger to the tune of an Academy Award for Best Picture for his work on Oppenheimer. Looking like Roven took home the W from this whole RollerBall 2002 debacle. However, John McTiernan did just recently, like a week or so ago, make an appearance at a film festival where they were showing Last Action Hero. And from what I've read, he has wanted to come back to directing. But no one wants to work with him after what happened with RollerBall. I couldn't believe how deep the lore on RollerBall 2002 went when I made just an offhanded comment about it on stream. I don't even remember what brought it up, but I mentioned RollerBall and how much I thought the movie was cool or something to that effect, and then it turns out it has all of this under the hood. Fucking crazy. Also, the movie does super suck, so it does deserve the 3%. Do I think it's the worst remake ever made? I don't know, there's so many bad remakes these days, it's hard to say. But it is trash, that's for sure. I don't know if we'll see John McTiernan return to directing anytime soon. It has been over 20 years now, so I think there's a good chance that, he might be suited for a comeback pretty soon. Especially with how desperate Hollywood is getting these days, I do think there is a chance we see him rise again, because he does have some of the most iconic late 80s, early 90s movies under his belt. So, I guess we'll see, but anyway, I just wanted to talk about this a bit. That's it. See ya.